Had ik dat starten? Ja, ja. Ja, ook nog een masker. Het donker is niet.
Of het een risico is.
Olá, Carolina, estás boa? Mira.
Thank you.
Succes, hè?
Een boter. Nee. Nee.
Classics racing we've seen over recent years that it can be a little bit windy and a little bit wet. Well, there's no sign of any rain today. The wind, a relatively benign 19 kilometers an hour, and the flag of flutters. And Peter Sagan is among those, recent winner of this race, and of course the reigning world champion. And right from the get-go, as you might expect, the effort to get into the
Jullie. Allemaal.
Mooi verloren. Wat pik.
Hey! Come on! Oh, what's up, Pete? Oh, flippy! Oh! Hopefully. Ja. De hele banden, jongen. Dikke banden. Dikke banden.
Paddenstraat staat ook een matchen en anti-shotten, jongens, met filet eventueel.
Goeiedag, joh.
Ja, best hè.
Bakker. Ja, dat is bakker. Ik weet het niet. Eerst al vroeg bij de eerste de bakker daar. Geven. Martin. Bak zeker 24. Die Klaas, ja. Eerste hand, ja. Deze Jura, ja. Dood. Van Avermaet.
Break of the day was significant. This is the crash that befell Dyer Quintana of Team Movistar. It's been a tough few days.
Ja, nu zijn ze er. Ja, ja. Ja.
På den finala station
That was it.
The line, but typically this race, it's a mini Tour of Flanders, that's what they call it, and as I say, typically it tends to end up in a small group or maybe a solo rider going to the line. That's what happened 12 months ago. Michał Kwiatkowski was the victor on that occasion. He's not defending his title, he's trying to stay clear of the cobbles. He has designs on the Ardennes Classics a little bit later in Classic season. So that's good news for Peter Sagan and so many of the other top contenders, with an eye on Ghent-Wevelgem and indeed on Tour of Flanders coming up. And we will have that for you here on Eurosport throughout the next couple of weeks. This is the breakaway group that have finally managed to wrestle themselves clear of the main peloton. I can tell you it's taken a long time, well over 120 kilometers, probably closer to 130 kilometers before the break managed to extricate itself from the bunch. There's a group of 6 have raced clear. Alexis Goujar on the right hand side of picture for AG Tour Le Mondial is there. Laurens de Vries is on the front for Team Astana at the moment, the Belgian rider. David Pair for Bahrain Merida on the left-hand side here, number 77. At the back of the group for Rompot Nederlandse Lotterij, to give them their full title, that's Taco van der Hoorn, complete 15, and the riders have several of those completed to this point in the proceedings. Perfect conditions for viewing bike racing, and there's not too many people in offices working too hard in Belgium this afternoon. If they're in the office at all, probably have the telly on, just keeping a weather eye on proceedings in E3 Harelbeke. 2 minutes and 6 seconds to the third group on the road, and 4:47 back to the main peloton. Riders trying to make their way across, and well, De Bont is a forlorn figure at the moment, trying to chase and trying to battle his way up this climb to get himself into contention. At least he has the, I suppose, advantage of being able to pick his spot and pick his route across the cobbles. Tom van Delage are in good shape as well, as they the Frenchman on the left hand side goes for the cobbles on the left, whereas Van Asbroek, well, he's a Belgian and he has no problems at all going in the middle of the road. They're trying to chase down that brassiere, but more particularly the main group, or at least the leading group of 6 riders up front. Alongside me, Brian Smith, as he was on Wednesday, as he will be again at the weekend. We've got some great cobbles action this afternoon, Brian, and it looks like this is a hard-fought one already. It took a long time for the break to establish itself today. What does that tell us?
Well, I think what it tells us is no one was wanting anybody to go down the roads. Nobody wanted to have a long day of kind of chasing or controlling the race from the front. We saw from the other day, Eduardo Vlaanderen, that the tactics of Quick Step were spot on. They put riders in the breakaway, they had numbers, and in the lime green at the front there, just taking a bottle. And Delage of Franche de Jeu. Well, they've got 2 minutes to go across. I think it's going to be very difficult for them. It's going to be a very difficult chase for them. But you can see the size of the peloton now. It's fairly large. That'll whittle down because we do have got 15 climbs today. This is the third climb of the day. They're on the Ode Kreuzberg. Or they've just gone over the top of it, the leaders anyway, at 800 meters, 9%, maximum 4.8%. % on average. As we see yet another crash. We've seen so many crashes today. In fact, one of the maybe favourites of today from L'Auto Soudal was crashed out, Tony Galopin. So he has been on the deck. As you see, Sylvain Chavanel, former French champion, has been on the deck, but there's so many others. We've already seen Dare Quintana, Mati Brescia's involved in the crash, Christian Knaes was involved with the Tony Galopin. So a lot of crashes today in this race, meaning that you really have to be vigilant and look after yourself.
Well, Sylvain Chavanel wearing Dossard number 1, the one on the end, would, well, it often tells you that that rider is the leader of the team, and certainly has an elevated status in world cycling. And he certainly knows his way around the cobbles. He's been He's been riding for a long time now, very much a veteran of the sport, so he'll be able to battle his way back in. I don't think there was too much harm done there. Not great news, I suppose, for his fellow countryman Tony Gallopin, because the Lotto Soudal man, well, he was intended to be one of the protected riders. Problems, and it's always a technical achievement to get round any one of these cobbled races without any difficulties whatsoever. So riders coming to grief as they make their way up this third climb, the Oud Kreuzberg, 800 meters in total, just under 5% on average. Let's pick up that crash in the middle of the bunch. Just a bit of a squeeze as they went round the corner, riders clambering to try and get into position and you know, pinch a bit on the inside. Bit of a squeeze. Chavanel, no panic from him, straightens the bars. Always you'll find pro bikes are set up and they make sure that they don't over tighten those handlebars, because a little bit of give is a useful thing. It means you can straighten them without things breaking. No panic from Chavanel. Dwarstor Vlaanderen, Gent-Wevelgem coming up on Sunday. Many of those riders are involved again today, and it's a 6-rider group that are clear of the main pack, which is starting to get itself organised behind as we work our way through the various cobble sections and the various Helligan climbs that they have to contend with. Bahrain Merida have managed to infiltrate this break. It wasn't easy to get in there, I can tell you. The winner of E3, Harelbeke, he's the record holder in terms of victories. He's on something of a retirement tour. He's within the last month of his cycling career. Could Tom Bonin come up with a really good send-off this afternoon? He seems to be in fairly good form, and he'll be using this as a big wind-up for battles to come. Jens Kukelaer, a strong man for the classics for Orica Scott. The old postman dismount. See too many of those. Back wheel change, not absolutely flying, but assists the mechanic. And for Orica Scott, they had a great day in Dwarstor Vlaanderen in terms of competitiveness with several riders, not least, of course, Luke Durbridge. Ended up with a fine 4th place finish. And I think for Durbridge, signs that he's really breaking through as a classics man. Jens Kukelaer is a useful assistant there as well. Plenty of punctures making themselves evident. Gediminas Bagdonis is another strong man, the Lithuanian rider. And looks like there's been a spill. Oh, indeed. Several riders, a couple of riders down there from Team Sunweb. And indeed, Orica Scott have another rider coming to grief. Mitch Docker hits the deck. And there are a few sore arms there as well. Could be a collarbone. Well, we don't like to speculate. Let's hope that he's able to get back in the fray. Front wheel significantly buckled. You don't see that too much these days with carbon fibre. It looks like a rolled tub as well, and it's a disc wheel on the front. Sometimes I suppose when the wheel buckles like that, the tub is more likely to roll off. You can't be sure that was well, what actually caused it in the first place.
Well, that was in fact Tunison, who was towards the 4 in Dwardorf-Vlaanderen. So you're just going to see it now as riders come down pretty much fairly close to the front of the peloton, and nothing you can do, no place to move. And unfortunately for Tunison, who's been showing some good form of recent, and has been enjoying his free reign with Sunweb, doesn't look as if he'll be back in this race today.
Yeah, 16th place in Dwardorf-Vlaanderen. He was the best finisher for Team Sunweb on that occasion, so that's bad news for Mike Tunison, who, as he says, is in good form. Very interesting that so many of the riders had pushed over into the right-hand ditch. They already felt that there might be a crash coming. They can almost sense it. Sometimes you can hear it, sometimes you can just smell it. So next climb of the day for the group up front there, safely clear of all the danger, and that's useful, isn't it? I mean, you know, one of the great advantages of being in the break is you just get away from all that lunacy behind.
Yeah, of course you do, but you're still wasting quite a lot of... It's easier, but in the long run you're wasting a lot of energy in the breakaway with 6 riders. But this is what they're racing for. This is why they're trying to get a good road position, because the peloton will be at the bottom of the Nocteberg, which is just over 1,500 metres, 13.3% maximum, 5.3. Comes with, as I said, just about 87 kilometres to go from the finish. But anything can happen in this small roads, and that's what you have to do. And it's the same with any of the cobble classics. Whenever there's a pavy section, whenever there's a climb coming up, you have to fight for position. And when you've got a big bunch of 25 teams, all with 8 riders starting, it's a fairly large bunch. And today we have got 6 cobble climbs, and the other 9 climbs are non-pavy climbs, as you see one of them now. But the rider at the front, Gouja, the 24-year-old French rider, good rider, won a stage of the Vuelta back in 2015, but it did take quite a long while for the breakaway to go, which means that the combinations weren't right. But just look at the size of the peloton. It's still most of the contender. People have crashed out. Tony Gallopin doesn't look good for Tunison as well, for Sunweb. But a large peloton, a good day in Belgium, but maybe not for some that have already crashed out.
Yeah, about 2 hours to go of racing, but I'll tell you what, that peloton's not going to be that size by the conclusion. This one tends to break up. It's they call it the mini Tour of Flanders. It's shorter, of course, so that doesn't require quite as much endurance, but they tend to pack more into the 206 kilometres, and that, of course, has an effect on the size of the peloton at the back end, doesn't it? It really is a tough day out.
Oh, it's any Belgian race is tough, whether it's the flat or in the climbs. And yeah, we're lucky that the riders have got a nice sunny day. Belgium's completely different in the rain and the wind, but you can see the teams, the strong teams, have come towards the front. They're looking after. They're not really pushing on too much. They're just looking for a good position. And Katusha there with Nils Pollitt, Collidan, looking after their riders. John Degenkolb is here for Trek Segafredo, so is Jasper Stuyven, Christian Knees, who was on the deck earlier today. Behind him, Stannard as well. So there's a lot of riders pushing and shoving, little road space, and even as you get further down, the concertina effect is mean stop, start, and that kind of saps the energy from your legs.
Yeah, riders on the right-hand side of the bunch thought they were in good position. Suddenly there's a bit of a stall on that side, and you lose 30 places in the blink of an eye. And there are not too many riders in there at the moment that are risking the blink of an eye. It's massive concentration just to maintain position, just to stay upright. And the best place to be, at the front. Nils Pollitt, as you say, did a monster turn, didn't he, for the Katusha squad in Dwardorf-Vlaanderen, and he's back on duty again, looking after Alexander Kristoff on this occasion. The Knokteberg, there's the vital statistics: 13.3% is the maximum gradient that they get up to, so it's not the worst, but it's far from the easiest either.
But the thing about it is, Declan, if someone puts a hammer down on this climb to split the peloton because of the crashes, it doesn't look as if anybody's interested at the moment, but if somebody was interested in putting the hammer down on this climb, this race could split in 5 or 6 groups. So it's been at the right place. This is a sort of a race that, okay, it's a little bit shorter than the Tour of Flanders, 206 kilometres, but you have to be at the front, because as soon as a team goes bang, this race can split all over the place.
Weather conditions are pretty good though, so that might might help a few more riders be in contention at the back end.
Yeah, I would think so. The weather is meaning that there's probably more involved at this time, but you know, it's been kept together a lot, the peloton. For the first kind of 60 kilometres, there wasn't even a breakaway. There was lots of attempts, but nobody in the breakaway. But certainly the weather conditions helps everybody.
Relatively benign at the moment, but those riders at the back, well, they will be fingers and toes crossed that nothing too aggressive happens. Christian Knaes, as Brian has mentioned, the flashes on his sleeves indicating his status as a former German national champion. Look at the way those riders on the front aren't, they haven't stopped riding, but they haven't gone absolutely flat chat, and as a result there's just a bunching up. And anyone who's ridden the Tour of Flanders Sportive or any of the big Sportive events, we've got literally thousands of riders, well, they know all about that, having to unclip and sometimes walk up the hill just for sheer congestion reasons. There's a smaller bunch, around about 200 riders, but still, for all that, you do get those congestion issues. And Ludwig de Winter of Varen Classic Equality Protect in the Dayglow yellow and black colours now finds himself in that situation. He's still on the bike, still in position, but there's a real sense that this one has yet to ignite. The 6 riders up front, and de Winter's teammate Christophe Masson is among them for the Varen Classic Equality Protect. It's Goujar, as we've mentioned before. GC in Tour de Eurometropole a couple of years ago as well, so super strong rider. David Per, the 22-year-old from Slovenia, first year on the World Tour, tall figure from the Adria Mobile squad last year. Goujar's doing plenty of turns, isn't he? He's not found wanting at the moment. And a couple of riders just taking their time to get back into the rotation, maybe grabbing a little bit of food. Gies van Hoek among them for Team Lotto NL Jumbo. Taco van der Hoorn is there as well, the Dutchman, for Team Rompot. So yet quite to ignite. Time for a little bit of feeding among the break, and we're going to take that opportunity too, back after these. The peloton are approaching the 5th climb of the day, the Hottenberg, 1,200 metres in total. The break have already been through it. E3 Harelbeke is starting to work its way into action. Took a long time for the early breakaway to establish itself. When it did, well, they've been managing a gap of about 4.5 minutes. Jure Sagan is battling his way to the front of the peloton. The Slovakian national champion, his brother of course wearing the rainbow stripes of world champion. Last 2 years victor in this race in 2014, and who would bet against him this afternoon on absolutely stonking form, just missing out in Milan-San Remo, but already a multi-winner this year, and tends to ignite things. He ignited it last year as well. He was the one that kicked it off, went away with Michał Kwiatkowski. Kwiatkowski eventually had the strength to distance the reigning world champion, and Kwiatkowski went on to take a solo victory ahead of Peter Sagan. No Kwiatkowski this year, so that has left it up to Sagan. And it's left it free for him. And Kwiatkowski, his Team Sky squad have Luke Rowe, Ian Stannard, and perhaps Gianni Moscon. Several others in there as well. It's a very strong classics lineup for Team Sky. We've already seen Christian Knaes from Germany doing a solid job of policing and managing his team and making sure they're in perfect prime position towards the front of the bunch, towards the front of the right-hand side for the most part. Just dropped back a little bit in recent moments, but still you can be pretty sure they're not too far away. Trek moving up on the right as BMC, well, they need all the help that they can get for Greg van Avermaet. That's Floris Hertz. We saw in similar difficulty in Dwarstor Vlaanderen.
Exactly,
he's not getting a lot of luck.
Exactly the same, 2 days running, and just punctures at the wrong time. I can sense, well, you can see it in the faces of Quinziato, that everybody knows that something's going to happen soon. And you know, it was a fairly easy start for a lot of teams. There was no big breakaway, but now the race is on for position. There's a few decent climbs coming up, and everybody's fighting for a good position. So there's a lot of nerves. Marcus Burkhardt comes towards the front for Bora as well, but you can just see Trek Segafredo in the red and the black, and something's going to happen, and something's going to happen soon. There's a few climbs coming up. We're just coming up to the next climb, which is a paved climb, Hottenberg, which is 1,200 metres long. Then we get another climb, and then I think the Tainberg, the cobble climb at 18%, could be the point that everybody's trying to get a good position for, because it's coming up in about just less than 8 kilometres time now. So, as I said, we've seen many riders go on the attack on that climb in the past, and I think that's why the pace is up, because at this pace it will take 10-15 kilometres to get to the front. So this is why you see a lot of the teams pushing for position. So they've told 10 kilometres before that climb, make sure you're at the front.
That one went on for about a week, didn't it? And almost everyone could sense it even before it happened. So that was a difficult moment for Andrei Grivko. For Alexei Lutsenko is down as well. It's actually Lutsenko, was it? Is in stunning form. Third place finish in Dwarstor Vlaanderen, indicating that he's the man to protect for Team Astana. Half the team stopped to assist him. So it just went on for about a fortnight, didn't it? It went one way and the other, and he looked like he was going to stay upright, but just and the seas parted around him. Let's get a look at it again. Just a bit of a jostling with one of the Quick-Step riders. Quick-Step manages to survive. That's just a frustrating one, isn't it?
Yeah, just get caught in the back wheel. Just a bit of an overlap and a squeeze. And Lutsenko we've already seen Vlaanderen, and that's why the team are all waiting for him. He has probably come of age in the classics now, just like Durbridge the other day. But I tell you what, if Astana don't get him back in the next few kilometres, it's going to be very difficult, because you see a lot of... Look, Rose up there, he can't even get a chance to get the gel down. He knows, and Luke is an experienced rider. You can just see the Quick Step coming towards the front. You see Christoph or Katusha getting helped. All the strong teams are coming towards the front. Marcus Burkhardt is saying, let's slow down a little bit, because they've got good road space. So this is what happens in these races. The strong riders come to the front to try and kind of slow it down, because they've already got position. They can bunch across the front to make sure no one else can move up, because if you risk moving up, you risk crashing. But they'll stay like this. They'll stay like this for the next maybe 2 or 3 kilometres, get their breath. But it's looking like the next of the cobble climbs in this race is going to be, you know, the key to the big team starting to race.
Yeah, and the hammer is down. There's no doubt about it. Just picked out Peter Sagan sitting in the middle of the group and just surfing that channel of death down the centre of the road without too much difficulty, taking the maximum amount of shelter, optimum position. Quick Step to the fore, and we got a shot just before that little issue for Lutsenko of Philippe Gilbert in his Belgian national champions colours, and his face was a picture of pain. And given the sort of form he's demonstrated in Dwarstor Vlaanderen and finishing second in the 1-2, more problems. Lotto Soudal find themselves with riders off the back. Surely a protected rider given the numbers of riders, and indeed Francis Dejeux, similar situation, 2 riders going back. Interesting, Matty Breschel went back for Lutsenko, because you might have thought that they might be looking after him a little bit, but it's all eyes, I think, for that squad on Lutsenko.
Yeah, I would think so after his performance the other day, but you can just see the blue jerseys now. They know the race is going to be on, so they're trying to get as many of the Quick Step team, which is on paper the strongest team there, but it just goes to show you the amount of punctures. What's happening is they're all racing at the front. They know, they can sense it. When the strongest team goes to the front of the race, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? It's you know, the red lights are going off. They're all racing for the this small road, and you take some risks. You ride up in the gravel, and what we're seeing now is the fact that some people are puncturing because of that.
So the Cortacar is the next assault, climb 6 on the list, 1,000 metres in total, 6.4%, max of 17%. It is a smooth road at least, but you can tell from these riders that this is no easy climb. And already, well, what, they're down to 3:37, so in the blink of an eye they've lost a minute of their advantage. They got to hope that things slow down a little bit at the front of the peloton if they're to enjoy an extended period out front. But we're getting into the business end of this, not quite in the final as it might be described, but you can be sure that 80 kilometres to go would have come up in team meetings, judging by the way that they're riding right now.
Declan, you see the size of the road here, right? They're not racing for, you know, they're not racing full gas for the finish. They're racing to get good position for this climb, not particularly for this climb, because in about 3 or 4 kilometres after this climb, you come to the second of the cobble climbs, the Teenberg, at 18%. Okay, it's only 650 metres, but it's a bit of a brute, and that's why they're racing, because what they'll do is they'll get good position on here. They'll just calm it down a little bit, go over the top, race full gas onto the climb, and I think we're going to see this peloton split into pieces.
Yeah, 2 climbs in quick succession is going to be a bit of a leg breaker for the riders in there. And remember, the second one is a cobble climb, short but less than sweet, as Brian has indicated with those statistics. Max 18.
Yeah, come on. Immer sind die Sau der Ost vorne. Hey, come on,
well, just about 4 kilometres after this one. More problems. Riders coming to grief. This time, Team Sky find Owain Dool sampling Belgian classics.
I think he gave Stannard a wheel. Looks like. I think he stopped and gave Stannard a wheel, because Stannard is probably more of the protected rider, but Team Sky had a good car position so that they were able to get there.
And Stannard waited for Dool, so he wants those legs to try and get it back in.
Dool gave his wheel to Stannard, and then you can just see now, carnage at the back of the field as well. It looks as if the Orica, is that Orica or is it Wanty involved there? So yeah, people taking risks. Set Van Mark up towards the front, so it is the boys from Wanty trying to help here, and you know, they've got Van Kersbroek, the rider, one of the riders involved here with a puncture.
Guillaume Van Kersbroek is in absolutely flying form. Superb win in Les Samines just a few short weeks ago, so if he's maintained that form, he should be able to get back into contention, but it's a match burned and not exactly at an ideal situation. The place to be is right on the front.
Yes, what we're saying earlier, big battle to get to the front. Now that they're on the front, you can just see they're starting to calm down. They'll calm down, but they'll accelerate over the top because they want good position for the Teenberg.
Bunch hit the Cortacar. There's carnage at the back of the peloton, as you might expect. It's E3 Harelbeke, and this is tough Belgian classics racing. Another climb, another coat, another opportunity for the superstars to put the squeeze on riders at the back of the peloton. Several have suffered from crashes, many more from punctures. And prime position. Cannondale as well are also there. Trek, Katusha, Lotto Soudal and Team UAE, so are all looking in prime position at the moment. Looks like Luke Rowe as well to the fore for Team Sky.
Hier, dat is benoemd hier, niet? Hier. Nee.
I don't think it's going to be a very hard chase. Look, you look at last year with Fabian Cancellara, when he punctured, he had to wait. He was in the back group and he came from the back group all the way to pretty much the front group again. It's going to take a superhuman effort from if you're too far back now.
Tish Benoot was 7th last year, of course, and he's a protected rider for Lotto Soudal. Both their protected riders have had difficulties so far today. Tony Galopin has had a crash, although we understand he's back in the peloton at the moment.
Who's that, Tony Galopin? No, he's off to hospital in Oudenaarde now. It was a really bad incident. But I was just watching there, Sepp van Mark pushing up there for Cannondale. He wants the front.
Yep, kom maar. Wie is dat?
Rachel.
Wees, hij dacht het gelijk, ja.
Dit koos hem vanaf, dat kost zij toch. Dat is. Heel 36. De Domenico.
Pushing and shoving to get to the front for the time, but because they all realise that with Elio Kaiser pushing it out in front, this Quick Step have to go on the attack. They want the masses towards the front. They've got the strength and numbers towards the front, and everybody's pushing for every inch of tarmac at the moment.
Well, Sepp van Mark looks like he's recovered from that difficulty. He had a rib injury following his crash in Strade Bianche, and then he says that the ribs are not really an issue. They're not affecting him on the bike, and he's pretty much recovered from them. Didn't have a great day at Dwars Vlaanderen. Put that down to a little bit of a dicky tum. And a few too many toilet visits just ahead of that race, so not really on fine form, but looks as if he's got the strength to be in contention and be in the right position at the moment in E3 Harelbeke. So Sepp van Mark for Team Cannondale in the green, sitting about 5th wheel in the peloton at the moment.
Look, is this to get further up, because he knows as soon as we hit this climb, he reckons that it's just going to go bang. And luckily for the 6 riders in front, they don't have to battle to get on position. But just look at the crowds, magnificent crowds out in the course today. Everybody expecting that this is going to be the place that the big riders like Bonin and possibly some other riders are going to go on the attack there. Now the Quick Step are lining in front of the peloton. They're fighting for this position, and we're going to see the first major attacks of the race.
It's a famous climb, and as befits its status, there's a huge crowd out to watch. And Lawrence de Vries of Belgian even, and the Astana squad has the honour of leading the breakaway group up the channel on the right-hand side. Optimum position in terms of the road surface underneath. But I tell you what, it's not going to be as easy to pick your spot when the bunch come through in just over 3 minutes' time, because this is going to be a big scrap to get into position. Sepp van Mark knows it. Absolutely every single one of the other riders in that peloton know it. They all know it, but not every one of them is going to be able to manage to get into the top position. So it's a series of races, 15 climbs, another 5 further cobbled sectors, and each one of those is an appointment for the riders.
Yeah, they know. They've already had it, but and they've already probably got it in their stems as well. This is the parts that you have to be in front, but it's not being in front at that particular time.
Crashes behind.
Quick Step. It's Terpstra look as if it's down, but
I think it could be
just
Van
going
Mark
to wait.
as well, and
so just have to wait and see who this is. But this doesn't look good at all.
So a difficult moment for one of the Quick Step riders. Finds himself with the bike on top, and well, there is a little bit of movement there, but let's hope that some support can be got as quickly as possible.
Is it Jack Bauer? Just trying to see who it is.
Well,
get him off the roads.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, Jack Bauer. I think that's a good pick, Brian. Indeed, it is. New Zealander in his first year with the Quick Step squad. And they needed his legs, and unfortunately, at least one of those seems to be in big difficulty. So that's a bad moment for Jack Bauer. Difficult moment for him in his career. Let's get a replay, see if we can pick it up. And just unfortunately, the road surface didn't quite have the grip that he required. Terpstra comes to grief
as well.
Yeah, it was Van Mark.
But you see the reaction Seth Van Mark knows this is a key moment. Peter Sagan goes through the picture now, running, jumping on the bike. Terpstra, no care for his teammate, just straight on the bike. They know this is a crisis point, a red flag point for all the teams, and they have to get to the front.
It's every man for himself. Terpstra, of course, would be a protected rider, and missed out on the big opportunity last year on the Tauernberg. It is Quick Step that are controlling its tornado, and it's the top riders from Quick Step.
Here he comes. Come on, Tom! Come on! Go on, Philip! Go on, Marcus! Christoph. Go, Stevie! Nicky Terpstra. Chavanel. Come on, Tuddy!
But still has the motivation and the strength to really get those legs turning. Philippe Gilbert goes to the front, try and put manners on it, set a tempo that he's satisfied with. Daniel Oss is thereabouts as well. He's done well in this race in the past. Top 10 finishes galore, and riders frantically trying to make the junction. This could be key because there's a bit of a split there, and the group behind isn't as big as the one ahead, and the group behind that as well. Well, look at the way it's split to bits on that Tauernberg climb.
Yeah, this was expected, and that's why the battle of the last 10 kilometres as riders were just vying for position. But it really all depends, Declan, on the makeup of this front group. I don't think there's enough Quick Step riders here. Saying that, you go back to the front, and Philippe Gilbert, the Belgian champion, is pushing hard, and then we get Direct Energy, UAE involved here, but I'm not too sure that Quick Step will be more than happy with the numbers at the front here.
Just under 70k to go. Direct Energy on the front. They've got a bit of chasing to do. Well, it looked like there was a little bit of throttling back from Tom Bonin after leading the field up to Tauernberg. Made the big split, had a little look around, had to think about it. Now himself and Daniel Oss have made a little bit of a gap on the rest of the main group. We're going to call this the leading group. There is a leading group of 6 riders up front. They are the breakaway group. We're not thinking too much about them because these are the real favourites, the real superstars of this race. John Degenkolb in red is in good position. Philippe Gilbert in the Belgian national champions colours in centre of shot. He has Tom Bonin for company, the world champion Peter Sagan. This really is the cream, isn't it? And there's some top races. Here comes another attack. Quick Step really want to kick this one off. We saw this in Dwars-Vlaanderen. Philippe Gilbert, much further out than so many of the other teams expected, really put the hammer down, split the group to bits, and now he wants to do it again.
Yeah, they're riding aggressively like they did the other day, and it worked. And just as the two front groups came together, Philippe Gilbert wants to stay in front. They know how important it is to have riders in front, and now he's taken with them to another rider. So yeah, it's an aggressive day of racing yet again for the Quick Step team. But as we pan further back, some more recruitments are coming forward now, and it looks as if these groups will come together to have maybe 60-70 riders at the front of the race.
Splits all over the road, and Daniel Oss and I know it's is it Van Avermaet has decided that they are not satisfied with the composition of this group. Bora Hansgrohe have strong riders. Posselberger super ride from him in Dwarsdorp Vlaanderen. Great to have the quality of his legs involved again today for Peter Sagan. Much has been made of the lack of strength and depth of the Bora Hansgrohe squad, but actually they've been pretty strong in supporting him. Sagan has really stepped up this year.
Well, this is a really strong quartet with Van Avermaet there and Philip Gilbert. I think the AG2R rider is Oliver Nason as well. So they've got some strength in that group, but I don't think it'll come too much because these groups are coming together. But it just shows you on one climb, the race towards that climb, the Tay and Bird, 650 metres. This is the damage it's done.
Well, the next big assault for the riders, climb 8, the Boynenberg, 2,180 metres, 2.1 kilometres.
They're just about to pick up the 3 riders that were just in front. Dries de Bont of Verandas Williams, Tom van Asbroek of Cannondale, and Michael Delage of Français de Joux.
Well, they hung out there a long time, didn't make the junction with the front riders, but have stayed clear of the peloton for a long time. Do they have the strength to get involved in this, to at least stay with this front group? That's what they were hoping for. That was the reason for their assault, not just, I think, to get a little bit of TV time, but perhaps put themselves in the position of maximum opportunity. And when they're picked up by the real heroes later on, well, it's been less fraud on the climbs. Of course, the trade is, as Brian has pointed out, that you're out front for longer. Will they be able to sit in the wheels? We'll get the question very shortly answered. And well, where are the riders coming from behind? This is the remains of the breakaway group. Indeed, it's a compact group of 6 riders, it would appear, with Team Lotto NL Jumbo's Gees van Heck from Belgium arriving on the Boynenberg. 5.8% average, steeper slopes than that. The Belgian rider riding a steady tempo. Their advantage now down to just 1 1/3 minutes. It's a big peloton behind, and not too far ahead of them are that elite group. So have they shot their bolt? Have they gone too hard too early?
I tell you what, there's another group trying to come across, and this looks as if this could be, if it's the right combination, this could be, you know, the race is definitely on, and Philip Gilbert knows this. Okay, they've got a few passengers. Posselberger is the rider that's with them, but it does look as if it depends on the combination of the group just behind, if they can get together. Nason pushing hard in front, and just looking behind, UAE is there, Français de Joux, Sky, Orica Scots, Lotto NL Jumbo, and also Cannondale got another rider in there. So not too many of the quick step jerseys towards the front, and maybe they've been caught out in this, and maybe the fact that they've only got Gilbert there, they might want to maybe hold Gilbert back a little bit, because obviously he's on some really good form coming into the last couple of weeks, but on his own he's going to really struggle because he's up against some strong riders round about him.
Well, now Yves Lampert in the Quick Step Floors squad this afternoon. He's basking in a little bit of reflected glory after his glorious win in Dwarsdorp Vlaanderen on Wednesday. But the man who finished second and really animated that race, Philippe Gilbert, is enjoying the Cobble Classics this year, isn't he? Balmy spring sunshine for the riders, and Greg Van Avermaet doesn't want to let anyone get back involved. Looks like Sepp Van Mark is trying to get back up there, and he's towing a couple of riders with him, but it's a hectic time. This is, I think, a key time in this race, because they're absolute stars up front. For all that, it looks like the bunch could come back together again, but it will have been a really tough chase. Interesting, Peter Sagan distanced with that big effort from Tom Bonen and from Daniel Oss and others.
Yeah, I don't think he's too worried at the moment. He's got Postelberger in front, but this is a strong group now. You can just see Posterberger with his mouth hanging open. Delage of Francais de Jeu, he's been in front, but you know, the three riders that are in front now with Nason, Van Avermaet and Philip Gilbert really pushing the race on at the moment. On the back foot, it did look as if the team of Quick-Step were towards the front of the peloton. Just as we look, I'm trying to look behind. Sagan knows that this is a difficult part of the race now, and I think he would want to try and shut this down, because there's some strong riders going in front now, just as the junction is made from Tom van Asbroek, who was in front, dropped back, saw Van Mark, and then moved towards the front there. So it was perfect tactical awareness from Tom van Asbroek of Cannondale. But just propped on the back there, it does look as if Luke Durbridge has made it there for Orica Scott.
Yeah, super teamwork there from Tom van Asbroek's been out front for a long time. Realised that his team leader was coming up, just dropped back, throttled back, made a big effort. He'll pay for that, but it has meant that Van Mark hasn't had to make the big effort. Van Avermaet in the position he wants to be. Third, his best finish in E3. He'd like to improve upon that. Proven winner and on absolutely flying form. Well, the riders are lined out in single file and scrapping to get every position that they possibly can, because it's absolutely flat chat and still 64 kilometres to go in E3 Harelbeke. There's a group of 6 up front, but we're not paying them too much mind, because the chasing group has a narrow advantage on the peloton. Here comes from group 3. Peter Sagan has decided that this is just a little bit dangerous, a little bit too long as well, that those riders have been out front, and he's a little bit frantic. Matteo Trentin has spotted the danger wherever Peter Sagan goes. It seems Matteo Trentin goes. We've already seen that in the Cobble Classics this year, and Trentin's having a little look behind. He knows that he's got 2 teammates in that group of leaders just dangling off the front of the peloton, and he's not about to give Peter Sagan any assistance in getting into position. At the back of the bunch, well, it's agonising stuff, isn't it? Tom Scully here for Cannondale Drapac. Well, he may well have heard that Sepp van Mark and Tom van Asbroek are in that group of favourites up front at the moment. Cannondale would like to would they want to get more riders in there, or would they be happy with the fact that they've got a gap and they've got Sepp van Mark, who's back at Cannondale, back at the Slipstream squad after an extended stay away, and seems to be enjoying it so far. David Per at the back of the breakaway group. Less than a minute now. They're going to be mopped up soon at the rate of progress, and that's why the motorcycles are heading ahead of this leading group. Alexis Goujar on the front for France, for the French AG Tour squad, and indeed for his own interests as well. It's a super ride so far for those riders. Just to get in the break today was a hell of a scrap. Took hours, literally hours, for it to form. Attack after attack after attack. Groups getting upwards of a minute at one stage, but not anything that will manage to sustain, not like this group of 6 out front. Then the chasing group of what, 5 or 6 riders finds itself 47 seconds down. Their advantage can't be much more than 10 seconds, maybe 15 at the most. Lucas Posselberger turning into a bit of a star, isn't he? His team leader is in the group behind, but Posselberger's not holding anything back. Tom van Asbroek, Michal Delage are in there. Sasha Modolo has managed to make it in. That's significant. He's got a great sprint, clearly enjoying his trip over the Hellingen as well. Now the next section of cobbles for the riders. As Kees van Hoek, he wants to lead them onto the Eichenberg. Led the last climb as well. Seems to be working his way into this one with strength and with plenty of commitment as well. David Per is sitting, stalking him on the wheel in the colours of Bahrain Merida. 22-year-old Slovenian rider in his first season in the World Tour, and already stepping up. Well, as an Adria Mobile rider, won't have experienced these races so far, so clearly he's a man for the future. At 22 years of age, he's got plenty of years to accumulate the knowledge, and local knowledge is so key. They go down every laneway they can find. And these riders spend years, literally years, living in the area and training on these roads to try and understand them. Looks like Van Asbroek's popped a gasket. No surprise, he was up front for a long time. Did a solid job to get Van Mark into position. So Cannondale dropped back down to one rider in the group. Also lost Delage from the early breakaway, who was thereabouts. So now it is the cream rising to the top once more. And these are the riders that managed to get clear of the peloton. They're still clear of the peloton, but so little in it. Will we see an attack from the peloton, or are they just going to try and sustain the chase, use teammates to do the job?
We've already seen Peter Sagan try to do something. He realised this is the Sasha Modelo getting dropped, and we saw him getting dropped the other day in Duado or Flandern when the pressure was put on. We've got two cobble climbs quick in succession now, but Delage, Van Asbroek, their day has been done, but it does look as if the world champion realised that okay, the teammate in front of him, but he knew that that was a key moment to the race. And you know, when you think that Gilbert is in, Nason, Van Avermaet, Postelberger, Van Mark, Durbridge, I think Trek Segafredo had numbers in the front, and I think they'll be the team on the back foot. I don't think Quick Step will be overly happy, but then again, Philip Gilbert is on magnificent form at the moment. Van Avermaet at the front pushing hard. He does look a lot better since Milan San Remo. He's complaining of having a little bit of a cold, but it looks as if he's back on form today. This is a formidable front group. We've already seen Durbridge, what he can do in Duado Flandern, and Gilbert as well. Nason, strong rider. Van Avermaet, the Olympic champion. Postelberger, he'll be loving being part of this, but Sagan missed out. He tried to do something to go across. He wasn't able to, but I think there's a lot of teams now thinking that some of the strong riders have disappeared down the road and they're going to have to chase them back.
Nason comes to the front for AG Tour La Mondiale after a huge turn from Greg Van Avermaet. Looks like a silver bike these days for the Olympic champion. It's been all gold bling for him since that famous day in Rio. Now the chasers of the breakaway group have almost made the junction, and they've put a lot of space and a lot of time into that peloton on that climb. That tarmac strip up the left hand side proving advantageous for the single file small group. Noticeable, and I think I picked out Alexander Kristoff, who was just cruising his way towards the front. Will it turn out to be him? Perhaps not, but Katusha put a man in, but cruising up the cobbles to do it. So there's the peloton behind. So the time gap you're getting, 8 seconds, that's from the breakaway group of 6, almost about to be joined by the, we're going to call it the group of favourites, very shortly to become Group 1 on the road. This is the peloton behind. I'd like to know what that gap is. Must be at least 15-20 seconds. It's gone back a little bit further back into the group. Is he perhaps keeping his powder dry for Sunday? I don't think so. So many of the teams will tell you there's no question but that they'll take a win when it's on offer, and they will fight tooth and nail for every one of them. This is a World Tour race, as indeed was Wednesday's Dwars-Storvlanderen for the first time, and as indeed is, of course, Gent-Wevelgem on Sunday. That's here on Eurosport. As the peloton behind, they've been joined by some more riders since the Eichenberg. Well, maybe not. You know, that would have seemed a little bit unlikely. There are riders trying to make their way back in, but that's a significantly slimmed down group, isn't it? And that's much smaller. Sasha Modelo has been distanced. And teammate of the UAE Abu Dhabi rider on the front of the main group. As we see this group of favourites, with Nason just on the back here of this group of 6. Durbridge makes a little bit of a mistake there and has to make an effort just to get back into the wheel. No harm, no foul on that occasion. Inside 60 kilometres to go in E3, Harelbeke. It's been superbly entertaining so far. It's only going to get back better from here. We'll be back after these. Well, there you have it, just under 60 kilometres remaining in E3 Harelbeke, and this is the leading group. They've mopped up the early break of the day, so 6 becomes 12, but it's 6 strong men, and those strong men include Sepp van Mark in the green of Cannondale Drapac, who's on the front, making way for Philippe Gilbert. And look at their advantage now, up to 47 seconds on the main peloton behind. Brian, I have to say, that is pretty significant, isn't it? When you've got legs of the likes of John Degenkolb, Peter Sagan and so many more team leaders behind, this is a significant moment for this race with a group of, 12 riders up front, 46 seconds to the good. Peloton need to get their skates on.
Yeah, they do. And Sutherland comes to the front, the German rider riding for the Spanish Movistar team. Tony Martin there in the red with the K on. And Matteo Trentin just sitting at the back of this quartet. No real chase, 45 seconds. You can see the team of Bora Hangro at the front of the peloton. I just noticed it in the breakaway there that Postelberger was not contributing at all. But when you consider it, the world champion's on some good form. They've put his teammates on the front, well, 2 teammates to try and help bring this back. I don't think that's going to be enough. The teams that have missed out in this, Lotto Soudal, okay, Taste been out, had a puncture, was caught out. But then they've got Team Sky. Team Sky are not in the front. They should be trying to do something as well. Katusha obviously realised that with Tony Martin there. But Tech Segafredo, they were looking as if they were in good shape, but have missed out. So we're starting to see some casualties at the back from the original breakaway. One of the riders, Christophe Masson from Varen Classic, has been dropped to the back here. So it's difficult times, but tell you what, this is a good work here from Goujar of AG2R, riding for Nason. He's been in the break for the last, I think, about 80 kilometres or somewhat, because it was late in going away. But he's still got the energy to help his team.
Yeah, solid effort too from the motorbike that is Tony Martin, the Team Katusha. The move across to Katusha Alpecin, will it pay dividends in terms of classic success? He's just distancing that rider from the Varen Classic Equality Protect. They've lost their man out of the break, and look at Peter Sagan, a little bit of frustration there because he needs to go around and take him with him.
He just looked around there and realised that it was Tony Martin in front and thought, this could be the key to me going ahead. So Tony Martin pushing hard in the front. The world champion is there. Nicky Terpstra is right up there towards the front as well. Sutherland also. Trentin starting to be distanced a little bit, but they have to get a small enough group. But I don't think many people want to ride with the world champion. This gap's still hovering about 44 seconds. This is the top of the Stationsberg climb. But afterwards we start going towards the Kappelberg, and then we've got the Patersberg and the Old Quaremont.
So Peter Sagan goes to the front of the chasing group. They have managed to separate themselves from the peloton. Up front, well, you've got Greg van Avermaet pushing hard, as well he might. And the AG2R Le Mondial squad have plenty of reason to push on because they've got Oliver Nassen.
Dat het naast was. Hier is de hand, hier de tweede. Hier de boon. Christophe. Genoot. was zijn haar nu? Gezien? Wat is zijn haar?
Lutsenko. Lutsenko staat eventjes.
Bistro.
Their protected rider, Steen Vandenberg, has moved back to AG Tour the Mondial after a long break, long time with Quick Step and a long time as one of the workers, as a domestique, working for the team leaders. He has an opportunity now to lead the team, and this must be a little bit of a sense of frustration for him because he can see the race win disappearing up the road. Daniel Oss just going to the front.
Dat luidt door de opgeven.
Hier, wat was het?
Front of that group there for BMC. Well, he's got Greg Van Avermaet in the brakes, so not going to be too much movement from him. I think at this stage I sense that Peter Sagan is probably betting on Posselberger, his teammate up front, not about to make any moves himself.
Fabio Fellini coming towards the front for Trek Segafredo. Dilly is there for BMC, and they're just bringing back Per from Bahrain, who was in the leading group. Sylvain Chavanel, Trentin, also Quick Step towards the front. So, yeah, I think they came onto the main roads. There's another group coming up from behind. This is the time to get organised, because if you don't get organised now and use your team, your domestics, then this gap is going to keep on creeping up.
There's at least 3 teams or 3 riders from teams that aren't represented in the break that are in this little counter-attack. Peter Sagan is not there. Quick Step haven't, to the best of my knowledge, put a rider into that little counter, but it's only just a narrow advantage that they've established over the peloton, so it hasn't quite established itself as a counter-attack yet.
But I'll give you an indication, Declan, right? Gilbert, Nason, Van Avermaet, Van Mark, Durbridge, that's 5 really strong riders that are in this front group. They've got some passengers, okay, they've been in the breakaway already, tired legs, they're sitting towards the back, but that's 5 strong riders already. In order to come across that group, it's going to have to be 5 just to hold the gap, 5 strong riders from the group behind. So if a group's going to come across to this front group, it's going to have to be 8 or 10 riders, strong riders, all contributing to try and come to the front of this race. So the gap still holding, it's still doable, it's 50 seconds, but I think it's time for, if you've got teammates behind, call them to the forward, use them up now, because this gap is going to keep on creeping up if there's no concerted chase behind.
Yeah, creeping up is the phrase. At the moment, it's just 1 second every 500 meters or so is being added to the total. It's all grist to the mill, isn't it? It's slowly but surely they're establishing what could well be a winning advantage. Let's not commit to that. Still 51.6 kilometers left in this race, but look at the way riders are coming back into the peloton. Not good signals for the chase. The peloton just got that little bit larger. It includes many of the favourites in E3 Harelbeke for 2017, including the likes of Tony Martin of Katusha Alpecin, who finds himself a little bit frustrated by the situation. Is he looking after himself, or perhaps thinking of Alexander Kristoff? Haven't seen too much of the great Norwegian so far in today's action, and Daniel Oss sitting second wheel here. He's not going to do anything about this one. He doesn't want to close it down because he has got the great Greg Van Avermaet up in the breakaway group. Almost 1 minute to the good, and that's a group of, what, about 10 riders, at least 5 or 6 of whom have genuine claims for victory this afternoon. They've picked up a few riders from the early breakaway, those riders enjoying the moment in the sun, such as it is, both figuratively and very much literally, because the weather's absolutely stunning this afternoon in Flanders, as Daniel Oss just rolls to the front but makes no real contribution to the pace. And now we're up to almost a minute.
And that's the breakaway because there was no team cars behind, because it wasn't a minute yet. So unfortunately for the Lotto NL Jumbo rider, Jes van Hoek, the Belgian, who was on some good form, 26th in Dwardorf Vlaanderen just the other day. So unfortunately for Lotto NL Jumbo, they could be without a representative in the front of the race.
Just over 30 miles remaining. Key moment here. If the peloton are going to get back into contention, they're going to have to start making inroads into that gap, and it's got to start happening pretty soon. Long way to go, you might say. But
there's enough time, there's enough distance to be able to do that, but you need to get organised in the group behind. The teams that are on front, so the teams that are represented. You look at BMC, they've got Van Avermaet there. You look at AG2R. All the teams are just covering riders that are trying to go on the attack. This is, in fact, looks like the rider is Verandas Williams rider Stijn de Wilder, who is in his 16th. May I repeat it? 16th in a row. He's ridden this race, E3 Harelbeke.
Yeah, the old dog for the hard road very much controls that record. He's got one. We saw Tornado Tom earlier on. No rider has won 6 significant one-day classics of the current peloton.
So look at them
Eddie
all.
Merckx has done it.
Look at them all. Like Tony Martin, he knows he's an experienced rider. He knows this is a key moment, and he's trying to force another group to come away. But when you've got the teammates of the riders in front just policing all the time, unless Katusha, Trek Segafredo, Sky, there's a few other teams without representation in the front of this race, unless they come to the front soon, this race is going to be over, and the winner is going to come from the riders in front, which tells me that I think there's a lot of tired legs in the peloton already. And if the riders are just kind of sitting following the wheels, they need to come to the front to shut this gap down, as it stays round about to 1 minute, just purely because of a tempo being set by the 16-time rider of this race, Stijn de Wilder. But Fabio Follini comes to front. He's not going to come across on his own, Declan.
Well, Follini has a sense of frustration there. Frustration too, I think, for Stijn de Wilder. He looks over his shoulder and sees a phalanx of teams that are represented in the breakaway group and have no interest in assisting him in his chase. Two-time Tour of Flanders winner, now 37 years of age, and he now sees Fabio Follini try the lone wolf attempt, but that's hardly going to work, is it? And
he needs to look behind now, because it looks
Niels
as if Katusha have now put some riders. Bahrain Merida have now put a rider up, because you know, looking at the riders, the teams that have missed out, Lotto Soudal, you've got Team Sky, you've got Astana still have one rider, Laurens de Vries up there, but he's been in the breakaway. You've got Bahrain Merida, you've got Français de Jeu, you've got Movistar, you've got Team Dimension Data. We've not really mentioned them at all today. Katusha we've already mentioned. Lotto NL Jumbo have got a rider represented in the front, and UAE. So there are a lot of strong teams without representation in the front. They have to really try to get organised, because the next climbs are going to come up. You've got the Kappelberg coming up, which is a tarmac climb very soon, and then you've got the Paterberg and the Old Quaremont.
Well, there's your breakaway group, 10 in total. Lucas Posselberger of Bora Hansgrohe is in good shape, isn't he? The Austrian rider, top form in Dwardorf Vlaanderen a couple of days ago. He's carried that into E3 Harelbeke, and Fabio Follini's period as the lone chaser looks like it could well be coming to an end. I suspect he's realised,
Look behind and ride with them.
Yeah, he's realised that Katusha put riders on the front. They are not represented in that breakaway up front, so this is a nervous moment for them, and they've managed to gather the troops Will other teams be found wanting, or will they be able to make a contribution? Lotto Soudal we haven't seen too much of them today. Of course, Tony Galopin, you mentioned.
Tony Galopin crashed out.
He's crashed and he's gone to hospital.
Punctured at the wrong time. So, and I'm just looking through this group here. I can't see that there's one rider towards the back, one rider for Lotto Soudal in this front group. Niels Pollitt's having to ride. Tony Martin's there. You see Christoph, but Fellini should be popping in and you know, trying to help and trying to ride with these riders.
Yeah, Lars Baum for the Lotto NL Jumbo squad, sitting at the back of the group, not exactly an optimum position, and that's not a position where he'll gain much, albeit it isn't exactly a big group, is it? Is he at the back of the peloton, because big split in there, and this chase group. Well, the last section not suiting out. That could well be the reason. That explains it. Lars Baum finds himself with a rear wheel puncture. Gets service pretty quick. Is that team worker or just someone? Yeah, I think it is. Judging by the wheel that's gone on.
Yeah, we forget about this. All these people at the side of the road, all the staff members, pair of wheels, bottles, and they're zigzagging their way around this route to make sure they're in the perfect place, because there's absolutely no chance of getting to your car today in these sort of conditions.
Yes, the teams accumulate assistance, don't they? There's a real call to arms for the classics. Get as many people as they can on board and put them in strategic
give them a bottle and a pair of wheels and say, be at these points today.
You're working for Team Lotto NL Jumbo. People would lay down their life for the opportunity to do that. Well, Philippe Gilbert, he's pulling faces with about 80 kilometers to go when this thing really kicked off. Settled down somewhat, but don't for 1 minute think that it's easy, because they're still managing to extend their advantage. Just over 45k left. Is this the group that will contest the win, or will the peloton get back in? Find out after these. Well, that peloton is still split inside 45 kilometers to go on E3 Harelbeke, and I can tell you that the Katusha squad are not minded to let too many of those riders back in. Indeed, it seems to be an elimination race from the back, but these riders are not currently contesting the win because they find themselves over a minute in arrears, just under a minute and a quarter. So the leading group up front, they've stemmed the tide somewhat because they're not extending their advantage, and Katusha are starting to just gain a second here and a second there. It's a critical moment though, and they've a long way to go to get back into contention. It's been a tough day out so far for Lotto Soudal. They've lost, well, Teish Benoot had mechanical problems, and unfortunately Tony Galopin has headed to hospital, and Nicholas Maas as well finds himself wanting. Or is that a mechanical problem? Fellini, well, he's still dangling off the front of the bunch. Brian, would you care to comment on the tactics here? I mean, how would you analyse that?
I tell you what, when he came around the corner, he was actually at the front of the group. He's shaking his head. He's riding too hard. He should be riding with Katusha. Niels Pollitt is still a young rider, and but a strong rider, and they should be riding together, Trek Segafredo and Katusha, because this gap is still manageable, and I think they have to do it. The top of the Paterberg is coming with 41 to go, so they've not got long towards this Paterberg, and I think it's going to even thin down in the chase, so they should be helping each other at the moment and letting the leaders try to do something, because if there's a strong group in the peloton behind comes from the Paterberg and then onto the Old Quaremont, a minute or just over a minute, somebody like Sagan and maybe Tony Martin and John Degenkolb, Christoph, if they can form in a group of maybe 6, 8, 10 riders, then there's an opportunity. But when you see in the front group Sepp van Mark pushing out and pushing on, these are the strongest riders at the front. Unfortunately, we've lost a few riders because of crashes and punctures, but yeah, you see Philippe Gilbert, even in the front group, they're trying to get a good position for the Paterberg.
A little bit of a scrap here, and it's because, according to the road group, we've got the road book, we've got a dangerous moment with 42.8 kilometers to go, which is about now. A little bit of a descent and into a series of twists, and then they make their way up the Paterberg. So it's about getting position, and it's about and problems behind in the bunch. Peter Sagan is one rider down. Looks like it's happened pretty close to the front because, well, rider on the deck, Oscar Gatto for the Astana's squad, and I think I picked out Julian Vermaet as well from the Quick-Step squad. So a little bit of agony for so many of the riders. Jack Barr. No, indeed, I think it's Alex Kirsch.
Fall right in the middle. AG2R was just pushed everybody out to the left-hand side, and unfortunately some riders were caught up in that, including the world champion, Peter Sagan.
Well, no sign of that AG2R Le Mondial rider, and well, Bora Hansgrohe had to wait a little while for Christoph Fingston to get back into position, and Philippe Gilbert gets himself into prime position. The stand, of course, of Laurens de Vries, and remember, he was in the early breaks. This is impressive stuff as he goes to the front, sets the tempo. I don't think he wants anyone to attack, but Philippe Gilbert knows that that's just not quite enough power that he's generating. De Vries finds himself struggling to hang on. Van Mark has to go around him so much, so too does pretty much everyone else. So a little bit of shadow, or he was just trying to hoodwink everyone there, wasn't he? De Vries wanted to set the tempo on the climb, and hopefully it was a tempo that he could manage and no one else would try and come around him. That plan didn't work. Philippe Gilbert is putting him under pressure. He's putting Greg Van Avermaet under pressure as well. Goujar is in good position.
Well, he did this a couple of days ago, Gilbert, the Belgian champion, and this is where he pushed out. The group was coming close from behind, and he's taking with him Greg Van Avermaet, Nason, Van Mark, Posselberger doing a good ride, just hanging in there. De Vries and Durbridge just about 2 or 3 meters off, but it's distanced the other riders that were in the original breakaway. Yeah,
Gies van Heck has gone. Great effort from him. Taco van der Hoorn has also been distanced, and Durbridge finds himself in a bit of a chasing situation. De Vries' little plan worked in as much as he managed to get over that climb, so he's still part of the lead gang up front.
It's an intelligent move, getting to the front, but this is what we've seen in Dwado of Vlaanderen, Trentin and Stibar coming to the fore, but this is Terpstra and Stibar coming to it. This is Trentin. Luc Rowe is just behind. Then you've got Daniel Oss. This is hurting everybody at the moment. You know, the riders are being distanced off the back. I can't see anybody coming back to the group in front now.
Well, Trenton's on the front. Presumably he feels secure and safe in riding, given that he's probably not absolutely putting the hammer down.
He's not putting the hammer down. He's just riding. The easiest place to ride is there. We've already seen a few crashes, so he's just keeping himself out of trouble. It's all going to come down to Philippe Gilbert for Quick-Step today. He finished second. He seemed very strong in Dwado of Vlaanderen, but he finished second there. But Tony Martin tried to dodge bottles. But this is a long time that Sagan has had to wait. But
surely
in
that's
this race last year,
because he picked up a wheel from Fingston. Well, it must be over a minute ago, more. So have they swapped wheels or what's going on? But certainly it means Peter Sagan, if these are live pictures, and I believe they are at this point, Peter Sagan is out of contention. And that change, well, certainly a wheel change, not a bike change, because he's still got number 1 on the back. He's not satisfied with that, and I suspect that this is just going to be a vehicle that will get him to a team car somewhere around the road. He might well ride to the conclusion, just 40k go. He might fancy the miles, but it's going to be very difficult for Peter Sagan to get back into contention. Just wants to straighten those brake levers, get himself a working and functioning bike. Not to be for Peter Sagan, but he's got a teammate up front and going well. Inside 40 kilometers to go, 25 miles in old money. This is the lead group. It is the Stars who kicked it off. Well, it must be fully 40 kilometers ago. And one of the leading animators from the get-go was the man on the front, Philippe Gilbert. Fifth to the post on Wednesday. His teammate getting the victory on that occasion. Philippe Gilbert to wear the colours of Quick-Step, and indeed the colours of the Belgian national champion, with pride, and try and represent their interests. Sepp van Mark was so often the bridesmaid. Could he come up with a big win when he really would like it? Luc Durbridge, 4th on Wednesday, had to make a bit of a scrap to get back into contention. the standard knowledge is that he will really suit, goes well in Paris-Roubaix, really suits the flat road. Of course, he's a track man, he's a pursuiter, he's a time trial rider, and you know, the thinking is that he doesn't get over these hills, but seems to be acquiring some facility for them. Meanwhile, now we've got a counter-attacking group, including Matteo Trentin. Well, he's hardly going to keep riding, has a little look over his shoulder, he's looking for assistance. I think it looks as if he is riding.
Yeah, but look who's come with Matteo Trentin. An absolute fabulous effort after his puncture earlier on today. T-Spinut is a rider that we were saying is a danger in this race. He punctured it probably at the wrong time. He's fought himself back. He's got very little teammates round about. I think he was the only rider in this front group. But we're coming on to the Old Quaremont soon, and I think Gilbert has to feel very confident. He looks good, and but I think Gilbert has to soften this group up. It looks as if he's on very good form. They're doing bit and bits. Gilbert at the back, but I think Gilbert will want to try and soften this up, and I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to do something in the Old Quaremont here.
Surprised to see Trentin riding?
I think they want to keep it, don't want to let the gap out too far, because there's 7 riders down the road and they've got 1 and 7. They've got some numbers, some strong riders behind, so if there's any faltering in front, crash, puncture, they want to be able to be within you know, a good distance of doing something. And I think there might be a reaction from the front of the peloton behind, including some of the quick-step riders. You noticed the other day in Dwaador-Vlaanderen in the Patersburg with Stebar and Terpstra. So we might see a similar situation today of some of the quick-step riders trying to come forward.
Well, there's no real impetus in that group, is there? But the group coming up behind is not exactly the complete peloton. Still, it's a significant size, but look at the way that the gap is being maintained, managed, sitting at about 1 minute and 11 seconds. We haven't seen too much of that lately, too much extension or indeed contraction. So it's just sat there, and it needs to be coming down because the kilometers are coming down.
Yeah, Nason looks super strong here. Greg Van Avermaet and Gilbert. Unfortunately, Van Avermaet, De Vries, Van Mark and De Vries have now been distanced. So it just goes to show you that the other day there that Van Mark he said he was in a bad day, and it looks as if he's not kind of recovered from that. Durbridge, excellent ride to 4th, and Dwaador-Vlaanderen and Posselberg has done a great ride today. But it looks as if the 3 strong riders of this race today are Nason, Van Avermaet and Gilbert.
Nason's on flying form, isn't he? 6th in Dwarstor-Vlaanderen a couple of days ago, 8th in Kuurne-Brussels-Kuurne, 7th in Alpenloop Het Nussblad, and that all translates into top classics form. Sooner or later, it'll all come back to you. Fellini is doing a great job for John Degenkolb, getting him into position, but they've got a lot of big work to do to get across this gap. Now Greg Van Avermaet and Philippe Gilbert. This is the select group of 3 who've gone on from the rest, and there really isn't the strength there. The signals weren't good on the last hill from Luc Durbridge, and he's not able to get back in there.
Good day for the Belgians. The Belgian champion in front, all 3 riders. And I think the crowds will be going nuts because there's a car behind. Can't see anybody coming back from this, and definitely the 3 strongest riders in the race today are in front.
Well, this race, not surprisingly, has been won more times by Belgium than any other nation. 37 times out of the 60 editions held so far. Well, this is the 60th edition, so 37 times out of 59. Interestingly enough, Belgium haven't won it in 5 years, since Tom Bonen's 5th success in 2012, so it's been a little while. It looks like they have a pretty strong chance of taking the victory today. Will it be Van Avermaet on the front? The Olympic champion, a man in flying form. Philippe Gilbert would very much like to win the Flemish Classic. So too with John Degenkolb.
Yeah, they're just coming over the plateau now, where these 3 riders are very close to the top of the climb now. They come out onto the main road. They turn left here. Still some climbs to come though. Just 2 climbs, both of them on tarmac, so no cobbles.
about it, and they will feel great relief as the tarmac smooths under their wheels. And they've done some damage because the gap goes up to 1 minute and 19 seconds across that cobbled sector, and before the bunch get to it, that is impressive work. So it's going in the right direction for the three up front. There'll be cooperation between them, but there's still a long way to go to the line. Oliver Nason of the three, the one with the most animation, or the most emotion being displayed on his face, that emotion being pain, suffering. Are they emotions? Semi-loathing of what's going on around him, but he's still able to get the watts out. Nason, as I said, has come up with a string of top results lately, so it's looking good. This is a select group. AG Tour Le Mondial would dearly love to come up with big classic success. They haven't scored too many over the years. No French winner of this race. Nason representing, as a Belgian, representing French interests at AG Tour Le Mondial. Feline's doing a great job for Degenkolb. And interesting, it will be interesting to find out what's happening with the riders who've been distanced by the trio up front. They're erstwhile breakaway companions. Will they be picked up? Well, there you go. You're seeing 13 seconds as Christophe Masson is picked up. Sorry, Guys van Hack from Lotto NL Jumbo is picked up from the early break. He was with the leaders for quite a while. It's been a solid job for him. Durbridge riding solo now. What chance has he got of closing that 13-second gap? So now just over 35 kilometers remaining. 1 minute and 21 seconds for the three leaders to the group of chasers behind, led by Trek Segafredo. In between are several members of the lead group, or former members of the lead group, including their nearest pursuer, and that is a pursuer, Luke Durbridge of Australia. And Orica Scott finds himself, what, 13, 15 seconds down. He's an absolutely fabulous ruler, really can generate the watts. Sustained performance from him, but that's what it's going to take. And he's up against three riders that are working in combination. Now John Degenkolb, of course, took that wonderful Paris-Roubaix and Milan-San Remo doubled a couple of seasons ago. Difficult season last year, came back at the back end of the year after that horrific pre-season training accident. And came back to decent form, scored some wins, now finds himself in strong position in E3, but still, well, fighting for the minor positions unless something significant happens very quickly, because these three riders up front, still total cooperation between them, and that's the way it's going to be for the next while.
It very much looks like that. One rider just trying to come back, and that's Durbridge, fourth the other day, and if he makes it across, could be another fourth for him, but it's going to be very difficult. The three Belgians in front will not want anybody else to come across, and the only thing that Greg van Avermaet has got up his sleeve is he never rode the Eduardo of Vlaanderen, so he might be somewhat fresher, but then saying that, Gilbert and Nason have recovered well and on good form. I wouldn't like to say out of three who's going to possibly win, because all three can finish well. It's going to get definitely tactical towards the end, so I can't see a sprint between them. They still have to cooperate because it's only 1 minute 14 seconds, so it's if they want to fill the podium, then they have to ride with each other, because there's still options from the group behind, Group 4, which is, you know, John Degenkolb group is only 1 minute 12 behind.
Three up front are working well on this tarmac stretch. Not quite a motorway. They don't go anywhere near the E3 or the E17 as it's called now. Well, I say they don't go anywhere near it. Actually, the finish is quite close to that road now that's called the E17.
So what are you trying to say?
I don't know. Basically, they don't go on a motorway. On a race named after a motorway. Durbridge chasing hard, but oh, this is going to be a tough one. I would like to see a time gap, see if he's making any inroads. Chasers behind. Other riders, the Posselberger, it's been a solid job from him, but disappointing day so far for Bora Hansgrohe, because Peter Sagan not really in contention, found himself in a chasing group, decided to bet on Posselberger, and then of course came to grief. Mechanical issues may have indeed have gone down in that crash. AG Tour Le Mondial rider taking several riders down, like Skittles and Peter Sagan getting back into the fray, but at a huge delay, and he's no longer in contention. So this chasing group looks like the steam's gone out of it.
Yeah, 3 from Quick-Step, Bonin, Trentin and Terpstra there. John Degenkolb and Fellini there for Trek Segafredo. Tej Benut, number 21. Good ride today, but punctured at the wrong time.
No cooperation. So the gap will surely rise between these riders and the ones further ahead. And this is a bit of a ski slope, isn't it? Finally, a little bit of impetus that will drag them up. John Degenkolb not satisfied with that one. And it would be nice to find out if Luke Durbridge is making any inroads. Perhaps does a little look around, finds that John Degenkolb is dragging their back. 13 riders in this group, they reckon. Felline's been doing solid work for this man. Just coming to the front there in the red, John Degenkolb with the moustache.
The thing is, Gilbert must be feeling super good today. He's got some good quality riders round about him in Nason and Greg Van Avermaet, because Quick-Step have got 3 strong riders behind. And if Gilbert didn't feel so good, then he'd maybe start missing turns and looking for the opportunity of bringing the likes of Bonin, Trentin and Terpstra into play.
Coming up to the penultimate climb of the day, the Carnamelk Beckstraat, 1.5 kilometers long. Want to have a go pronouncing that one?
I thought you'd done an okay job without even drinking.
Yeah, they can hardly get
Belgian
that
beer.
one on the one page, could they? It's more syllables than anyone would care to manage. Seb Van Mark, disappointing day for him so far, finds himself distanced, and well, where is that big win coming from? Has in the last couple of days had a bit of a dicky time. Remember, his body is recovering from that rib injury sustained a few weeks ago, and there's a lot of this classic season left. He'd trade an E3 for a Gent Wevelgem, or perhaps even a Ronde van Vlaanderen. That's what it's going to be at the moment.
What Van Mark needs to do now is realise that he's got 2 strong teammates in the Van Baarle and Langeveld behind. He's been distanced. He's not got the legs to go with the strongest riders that were in that group. So I think that's why he's kind of sitting on, because there's still an opportunity that Cannondale can still feature well in this race. They'll have 3 riders in front and in the kind of main group just behind. It's only 1 minute and 12 seconds. So if they combine well enough together, this race could not be over yet. But it's going to be a hard chase, if any, if Nason, Gilbert and Van Avermaet are brought back.
Climb number 14 of 15 of the day. Nason finds himself on the front. Philippe Gilbert in second place. And the man with the big advantage, Greg Van Avermaet, well, he's got 2 things in his favour. 1, he is one of the most powerful cyclists in world road racing. 2, he's also one of the best sprinters. And of the 3, he's, no doubt about it, he's the fastest finisher. So Nason and Gilbert know that they've got to distance Van Avermaet if they're to take victory in Harelbeke today. Durbridge doesn't seem to be able to get back in, and another climb is not going to suit him. Another climb is not going to suit him. You feel that if he's going to get back on, he needs to do it before a climb and hope that there's a cessation of hostilities, and that's hardly likely to happen, is it? Still, he will believe, and still he will push on. Van Avermaet goes to the front, tracked by Philippe Gilbert. Where's the attack going to come? So far too far out?
Yeah, this is where Sagan and Kwiatkowski went on the attack last year and held off the group by all a matter of, I think it was 10 seconds to take the win for Kwiatkowski. Tony Martin's still there in this group. This is De Vries and Van Mark. Van Mark has got 2 teammates in this group, which will bring them into play now that they've been brought back.
So 1 chaser in between as far as we can make out. I haven't heard about anyone else at the moment. Felline goes to the front again. He's shown, we think there might be 2 in between. Certainly Luke Durbridge is the lone chaser.
Is with him.
Oh, and Lucas Postelberger
is
right.
with Durbridge. The 2 of them are only within about 30 seconds of the 3 riders in front.
So if there's any breakdown in communication between the three up front, well, there's still plenty to fight for, and that's what they've got to hope for, that Van Avermaet's fabled sprint could well become a factor, and the other riders decide to attack him. But when's that going to happen? Could well be a while before we start to see attacks from the trio up front, because this is a big group chasing. Still only 1 minute and 21 seconds down, and still almost 30 kilometers to go. It's been all action. It really has kicked off a good bit out again. It's great.
It is, but Fellini is hurting a lot of the riders. You can just look behind. Trentin is just sitting there. Tony Martin's there, John Degenkolb. And when we go over the top of this climb, who is left to chase? That's it. It's one rider. Fellini is not going to bring back the riders in front, so they're going to have help from other riders. And when this group came together, there were numbers for Cannondale now, but I think they're kind of hanging on the back of this group. T-Spinut is on his own, so I don't think he's going to ride. So it's in a difficult situation, the riders behind, and I can't see anything denting the hopes of these three riders to fill the first three spots in the podium today.
Well, one suspects there's going to have to be a little bit of cooperation between riders who see themselves as leaders if they're going to close down these. Starting to extend. The crowds are huge, as well they might be on Friday afternoon in Belgium. 1 minute and 23 seconds to the good. Greg Van Avermaet on the front. Philippe Gilbert next up. Oliver Nassen, perhaps the least well known, but certainly in top classics form at the moment. The man from Tour Le Mondial. And Gilbert, well, he's on flying form. It's great to see him racing the Flanders Classics with such facility.
Yeah, he's looked pretty impressive. Back to probably near as close to his best as I've seen him over the last few years. Although you see glimpses of it when he wins races. But I think Gilbert is happy to have the Belgian Champions jersey on in these races. It's just super. Yeah, he looks in very good form. Yeah, he looks in very good form. But I wouldn't like to question or say that anyone's better than the other riders round about him. Naesen, Van Avermaet, and Gilbert can finish well, and it's going to be an interesting final 25 kilometres. Are we going to see attacking? I think it's going Burbridge, and they're combining well enough together, so they can't hang around. If they want the first three spots in the podium, they're going to have to combine, and I think we're going to see it getting maybe a little bit more tactical inside the last 10 kilometres.
Update, 43 seconds to the chasers, so they have three riders up front have really extended their advantage. As you might expect, they were the strong men. They managed to distance themselves on climb a couple of climbs ago, and well, they've made the most of that. Up to 43 seconds. They're pressing on. Lucas Posselberger in the company of Luke Durbridge, but it's only going one way for them, and looks like they could well be picked up by the remains of the peloton. How long before that happens? Van Avermaet gets the food in. It's 206 kilometers this race. It's dropped down to around about 194 kilometers, was the shortest edition back in the early years of this century, about 12, 14 years ago. And then they've extended it. And now it's become very much a mini Tour of Flanders. Some riders say that in many ways it's just that little bit tougher to get round, because all those various Hellingen and cobbled stretches come thick and fast with so little respite in between. For all that, there's a bit of a gap between the last climb and the run to home, and that does allow some riders who've been struggling to get back into position. The final climb of the day is the Tegenberg, and that's reached with just over 18 kilometers remaining in the bike race. Chase group 3 on the road, making inroads into the two riders up front, but the three ahead of them are still going away.
There's actually 4 Cannondales in here.
So that's surely them.
4.
Yeah.
And okay, Van Mark is got some sore legs, but why aren't they trying to do something?
It's a strength thing, sure.
Yeah, they're probably thinking now if for points, and I know a lot of teams think that way, but you know, Quick Step have got riders in the front, Astana have got 2 riders, and they're just thinking with having 5 riders in front of them, there's some points left to get back, but surely they should put maybe 1 or 2 riders in front, maybe try and bring back Durbridge and also Posselberger, and try and ride them back and try and go for 4th, because at the moment they're going for 6, and just as we're saying that, they want to get involved and do a bit of a chase, because this gap is creeping up to the front. I think the race is gone for them, but having 4 riders in this front group, Van Mark obviously accepts that he was there, he never has the legs, and now he's coming to do a bit of teamwork for these other 3 teammates.
They've changed things around a little bit, but Van Mark willing to do the legwork, and that's it's great team play from him, but they're going to have to do it pretty quick, because that little momentary hiatus, saw Luke Rowe, I believe, for Team Sky, just getting on the radio, back to the team car, just to try and get some instructions, and are the instructions to ride? Service Canavan will probably say ride and ride hard. 24 kilometers remaining. Riding tempo at this moment. Tempo plus a bit. Avermaet, plenty of conversation between the 3. They're encouraging each other. They're trying to keep, they're very much cohorts at the moment. Well, that will change between now and the end, especially if they manage to hang on out front. At the moment, well, few would bet against it. Looking good for those 3 up front, and how long before the group behind pick up Luke Durbridge and Lucas Posselberger? Well, I suspect that they will have been given a little bit of a reprieve themselves. Through the next section of cobbles, the Varant Strat, fully 2 kilometers of pain and suffering. Let's see who's the strong man here. Oliver Nassen fancies himself.
You can see they put barriers up in the left-hand side. They're trying to stop them from using the I wouldn't say it's pavements, because it's just dirt. It's just flattened dirt to the left-hand side. But yeah, that's what they're trying to do. This is a fairly long section, so they put these barriers to stop them from going on to the walk-in area, we'll call it.
Well, when a dirt ditch represents some relief, they'll give you some idea of the sort of battering they're getting from these cobbles. Plenty of barriers in evidence, plenty of controversy indeed at the outset of the Classic.
Again crashed and got mechanical, so you know he won't feature towards the end of this race. So there's been a lot of kind of crashes, nervous moments, but definitely 3 strong riders at the front of this race, with the Belgian champion Gilbert, Greg Van Avermaet, the Olympic champion, and Oliver Nassen at the back for AG2R. So these 3 riders look as if they'll fight out the top 3 places, and I wouldn't like to bet on any of them, because they look strong enough. All 3 can finish well, and this is sort of race when you've already been racing from the Tegenberg, and the Tegenberg came with 72 kilometers ago, and they were racing before that. So the
Durbridge and
the other day in Dwador-Vlaanderen, Gilbert tried to go on the last climb. Will he today? He might test them out. I think he will.
There is no way that Philippe Gilbert, a rider of his class and ability, his attacking instinct and his ability to sustain an attack, and indeed the strength that he's displaying today and through the week, there's no way that he is going to take Greg Van Avermaet to the line and bet on his sprint and just be delighted with a 3rd place or a 2nd place finish, because that's what he would be betting on. At the moment, down to or up to 54 seconds. Tell you what, they're managing to hold off the group behind. There must be, well, so little cooperation. Somebody's found their way onto the left-hand side. Trentin finds a little bit of difficulty, so Quick Step stay. A little bit of difficulty for them. Had got a couple of riders in.
I tell you who's done a very good ride today, and we've not even mentioned him, the rider from Bahrain, Merida at the back, Sonny Colbrelli. Stage win in Paris-Nice, got some good form, but he's still in the front of this race, and you know, he's a young rider, plenty, you know, big future ahead of him. He can sprint well, strong, and nice to see him get over the cobbles well as well.
Three riders up front with just over 20 kilometres remaining have established a 2-minute advantage over Group 3 on the road. Group 2 about a minute down, and that's Luke Durbridge and Lucas Posselberger. Durbridge from Orica Scott, the Austrian, Posselberger from Bora Hansgrohe. The squad of Peter Sagan, no luck for Sagan today, found himself caught behind, didn't quite have the strength to go with the leaders, and then, well, no inroads being made by that group, and then he finds himself caught up in a crash. So difficult moment for the world champion, but well, he'll live to fight on, and he will race again, Gent Wevelgem, on Sunday and through the classic season, and he will race and attack, no doubt. Will there be any attacking out of this group? Well, will there be any racing? Feline still on the front, driving along. It's a solo effort for him in so many ways. No real contribution from the Cannondale dropback squad. Well, I say that, but Sepp van Mark did try to contribute a little while ago. Roberto Bettiol here at the back of the group finds himself on.
En als je kijkt, nemen de man controle natuurlijk.
Le Mondial find themselves with a great opportunity. Julien Jourdain in the car for the French squad, supporting Oliver Nassen, their Belgian rider. He's just 26 years of age, so he's youngest rider of this trio. Won the Breton Classic West France last year, and of course second in the Eneco Tour, so he likes racing in this part of the world, not afraid of a little bit of wind. Wind hasn't really been a huge factor today.
No, not at all, and it's I don't think it'll be much of a factor in the run-in towards the finish either.
Up from the riders up front, at what point do they start to think about just managing their energy resources a little bit, throttling back a little bit with each turn? You know, they're still pressing home their advantage. At what point do they think, well, we have enough, let's just hold what we have?
I think they're already thinking about it now. This is the last climb. Will Gilbert try something? You know that the gap is going up to about a minute to the two behind, and then 2 minutes. Doesn't look as if he will. Looks as if they're going to go over the top of the climb. Just to say that Gilbert goes on the left-hand side.
Well, it had to happen, didn't it? And Philippe Gilbert has attacked. Greg Van Avermaet was waiting for it. He's all over that one. And Nassen is finding himself struggling a little bit to get back in the wheel. But, well, he's getting there. Is he getting there? Greg Van Avermaet is right all over this one. He is all over Philippe Gilbert. And that is not what Philippe Gilbert wanted to see. He'll go and go again. And this climb is going to be the Waterloo for Oliver Nassen, unless something extraordinary happens with the two up front. 3 become 2. Gilbert looks around, and he's hardly grimacing. Grimacing now, though, isn't he? As the gradient really starts to bite, as the crowds start to mass towards the top of the climb, Nassen is absolutely emptying himself because he knows he's got to get back, and he's got to get back quickly. It's not the longest climb in the world, but it's still going to feel, well, it's going to feel like Alpe d'Huez right now to Oliver Nassen. Just 1,000 metres in total. They're over the top of it, but there's a little bit of a gap there. Those two riders will ride. Yeah, I think Nassen will come back. It's just unfortunate. I tell you what, on that climb, the amount of motorbikes that were in front of that, you know, Philippe Gilbert when he attacked it, and I believe that Philippe Gilbert got some assistance there from the position of the motorbikes, which I don't like to see. Unfortunately for Nassen,
he was distanced and didn't get that benefit, and he's got to close this gap, as you say, Declan, very, very quickly. I think he will, but that was a big attack there by Philip Gilbert.
Well, you knew it was coming, but even if you know, there's not always anything you can do about it. The motorbike's, of course, hot topic in cycling at the moment.
You knew what was going to happen. We were suspecting Gilbert was going to go. They were all across the front. Gilbert, it wasn't his fault. He's attacking, but he goes, you know, he's getting the benefit of being that much closer to the bikes in front of him, which maybe made a distance of about 20-30 metres to Nason, which meant that Nason would have probably been back to them already. Unfortunately for Nason, he's had a hard chase, but yeah, this race is not over. We're going to see some other attacks as we start heading in towards the finish.
Well, I think Nason is going to get back in, so that could be a massive relief to him, because it doesn't look as if they're really pushing hard. Philip Gilbert, well, he's not with Greg Van Avermaet on his wheel, going to use all his matches just to keep Oliver Nason behind. He would be, well, I think second or third. Really doesn't matter to Philip Gilbert. It's all about the win. Greg Van Avermaet, he's just riding through to maintain the tempo. He knows that's his responsibility, really. He knows, they know he's the best sprinter, so he knows that they know that he's got to do something. He's got to show willing and show that he's willing to use a little bit of energy just to keep up the pace, keep the tempo of this group.
I think they both know now that Nason is just struggling a little bit, but he can play with that. The fact is he was dropped there, and they know he's dropped. They can start to play games with him and try and miss some turns, try and lull them in. Not have the legs, but if Nason was to go inside the last 3 kilometres and Gilbert and Greg Van Avermaet look at each other, he could pull off the win. So there's a lot of thinking, a process here, but Nason is definitely not out of this.
Well, he's going to miss a few turns. He's had to chase back on, and as you say, he was the man who was dropped, so they know he's not quite as strong as they are. Yeah, so his disadvantage could become his advantage tactically.
That's what you have to use. You have to think about, how can I win this bike race today? And at that, being dropped has probably helped Nason a little bit. He can afford to, and the other two are thinking, well, it's a battle between the Belgian champion and... Nason could go ahead and win this race today.
Well, Gilbert looks across as if to say, anytime you like, you're more than willing. Picking up texts, getting a few selfies. Well, the fans thrilled to be in on the action. And Gilbert, Van Avermaet and Nason are not even thinking about that. They're only thinking about each other. They're thinking about the final 10 miles. 16 kilometers remaining, 2:14 to the erstwhile group of favourites. You can forget about them in terms of challenging for victory now. The group in between, 2 riders strong. Last time we heard well over a minute between these 3 up front.
Nason has to do now is pull faces and you know, go through every now and again, try and save as much, because he knows he's probably the weakest of the 3 in front, and that can play to his advantage. We've already kind of mentioned that. So if I was Nason, I'd pull some faces, I'd look bad. Inside the last 3, maybe 2 kilometres, if it is still together, bang, and try and win the race.
Well, no climb's worth the mention between here and the finish, so what does Philip Gilbert do? He needs to try and pull a bit of an ambush.
Look at a couple of years ago when Geraint Thomas won it. He just put in an attack, and it opened up a gap about 2 or 3 metres, and it wasn't closable. When we get into the finish, because we were off all the climbs, is having that small gap, and you saw Gilbert when he went on it, he went flat out. Greg Van Avermaet went straight after him. He couldn't give him an inch, and I don't think the 2 Belgians in front are going to give each other an inch.
Philippe Gilbert, Greg Van Avermaet and Oliver Nassen set to contest the first 3 positions in E3 Harelbeke for 2017. But in what order? 2:16 to the big group behind, and they've got a significant chunk on the 2 riders who were their erstwhile breakaway companions. As well, the word comes up to Philippe Gilbert. How are you going to play this one?
Yeah, Tom Steels is just telling them that the gap, and that's what they want to know. They want to know how much time they've got to play around here. Whether to keep the pressure on or ease it back, as you were saying. When is the time to ease it back and try and save something? Because each of these 3 riders inside the last 15 kilometres are trying to think how they can win this race today. I think Nassen has to ride a couple of, just to keep them happy, keep them off his back. But no, sometimes if you rattle them a little bit, then it means that you can play that card. But
do the odd turn, a little bit of glass cranking, just
yes, that's what you do. This is what he's doing now. He's doing. Oh look, I was dropped in that last one. Just do a bit, as you say, glass cranking and keep them happy. Greg Van Avermaet was already having a go at him, so you do a little bit. But yeah, Nassen is not out of this race at all. He can surprise them. It does look as if Greg Van Avermaet and Gilbert are fairly evenly matched, and it's difficult to say yet, with under 14 kilometres to go, of all 3 of these riders, who's going to win this race.
1:36 now. We're getting confirmed as the gap between these 3 up front and Posselberger and Durbridge behind. They're pretty much out of it, and Nassen is the key here, isn't he? Every time he rides through, it presents an opportunity to Philippe Gilbert, because he's 3rd in line at the time that Nassen's on the front. So if there's any little bit of a moment just to get just a couple of bike lengths advantage over Greg Van Avermaet, and you just sense that he's thinking about it right now.
Well, you see when Gilbert attacked in the final climb, Van Avermaet straight on him. I don't think Gilbert or Van Avermaet will have both eyes on Nassen, which gives them a slight advantage. He only needs to duck and dive a little bit, do his turn, not force it. And I think that's what Gilbert was asking. He was asking the cars, what's the gap back? Because he knows he's up against it if he wants to win this race. He's up against the Olympic champion. And this is going to be fascinating as we ride in towards the 10-kilometre go board.
I think Greg Van Avermaet would like to put himself in between Nassen and Philippe Gilbert in the rotation here. It's not significant. There's so few riders, but just might offer that 1 bike length advantage if Gilbert is able to spring a surprise from the back of the group. If you see him drop off by even half a bike length, it could well indicate that he's just going to try one. You feel that he has to. Nassen too, as you say, has the only way he's going to win this race, and you got to be in it to win it. He's in it at the moment. He's right there with them, so he'll be thinking about the win. But the only way he's going to win is if he gets clear of these other 2 riders, and he depends on a dispute between them. They eyeball each other for more than a few seconds, especially if it's within the last few kilometres. Oliver Nassen could well be in the frame here. It's advantage to Greg Van Avermaet, though, because if it comes to the line all 3, well, he has the best sprint. Surely, though, he's the one that's going to have to close all the gaps. If they, you know, they could. You would imagine that Nassen and Gilbert, if they've got the strength, should at least try to double team him a bit.
We can sit all day and talk about it, Declan, but only they know what's going to happen. And this is what, you know, we're waiting for on the edge of the seats. I cannot see the 3 of them coming together for a sprint finish, because, as you say, Greg Van Avermaet, you would think, would be the fastest of the finishers of the 3 of the riders in front. And the other thing is, Greg Van Avermaet had a bit of a cold. Never rode Dwador Vlaanderen a couple of days ago, but by the looks of today, he looks as he's in fine fettle. So Gilbert is, I think, going through the thought process now of how he can win this race today.
Gilbert rolls to the front. Greg Van Avermaet puts himself in between Nassen and Gilbert and rolls through.
The other thing to throw in the mix was, if Gilbert was confident in the sprint, he wouldn't have attacked in that last climb. So Gilbert knows that he's up against Greg Van Avermaet. He's not guaranteed to win.
He is a fast finisher, Gilbert.
Yeah, of course he is, yeah. and he's very capable of beating. You look at Kwiatkowski and Sagan coming to the finish last year. Kwiatkowski won it by 4 seconds. you know, Sagan, I don't know what he was doing last year. He just kind of burnt out all his matches, but similar could happen today. So it's going to be a fascinating last 10 kilometres. They know they've got enough time now to sit back and look. It's going to become very tactical, and you know, the thought process is you know, they're thinking all the time what they can do, getting closer to the finish. And I think for Greg Van Avermaet, the Olympic champion at front for BMC, he would like it to come to a sprint, because he is probably the favourite of the three riders in front. Nason is thinking, looking for these opportunity, and so is Philip Gilbert.
Well, of course, Greg Van Avermaet had that great victory in Kuurne, Brussels, Kuurne. The day before, of course, Peter Sagan, three riders went to the line. There were no real attacks between them, and there was a sense of frustration, certainly frustration from Peter Sagan, that the attacks just never materialised. I don't believe, with the composition of this group, though, that we're not going to see at least one or two skirmishes.
Look, there will be occasions, there come occasions with 10 kilometres to go now, that teams behind will say podium is good. And you know, you mentioned that time about the Het Nieuwsblad when Van Mark never went through, and were they happy with you know, that podium position? That's what you have to consider. What's happening in team cars behind? Are they happy with a podium? Are they going to try and win? And I think the riders in the breakaway are going to try and win this race today.
Inside 10 kilometres to go in E3 Harelbeke for 2017. Three riders up front, still managing that 1.5 minute gap to the two riders. Their breakaway companions, erstwhile, Lucas Posselberger and Luke Durbridge. Well, they've closed the gap by just a few seconds, but it's not significant. So there's enough effort going into the pedals from Philippe Gilbert on the front here in the Belgian national champions colours. Greg Van Avermaet in the sunglasses, the white sunglasses. On the right-hand side, a picture from BMC. And Oliver Nassen, young interloper, 26 years of age, on flying form at the moment for AG2R. Didn't look so strong on the final climb, but managed to get himself back to the two up front, so that makes it a trio. Group 3 have closed to within 2 minutes, so it's coming down a little bit as you sense that they're not absolutely flat chat here, but they have put so much effort in, mates, and well, they've got to try and save something for the big push. Drinks going on board for Greg Van Avermaet, stalking Philippe Gilbert, the danger man.
Got to feel sorry for Durbridge and Posselberger, because I very much doubt they'll be able to hold off that Group 3, that main group with John Degenkolb behind, because it does look as if they could be caught before the finish, which means the group behind will be racing for 4th place.
Yeah, 4th place is big World Tour points, as you say. The way the teams are focusing on, you know, racing for minor positions and the big haul of points, it's something that's been a bit of a discussion in cycling over the last couple of years. Do you think the UCI need a bit of an adjustment to the points, the way that the points are allocated?
I think they have to look at it. I think we've discussed this before about the UCI points and how they you get big points for the you know, the Grand Tours, and you know, some of the other races you get big points, other them get small points, and yeah, that's, if you want to stay in the top 18 of the World Tour teams, you have to get points, and so that's what the teams start to think. That's the way they have been thinking for the last few years. I like to see people racing, and you know, just racing for the best possible place they can get, and actually racing for the win. But I think Gilbert is one of these racers. Greg's Van Avermaet's a racer, so is Oliver Nason. We've got 3 racers, and this is great. 3 racers trying to win a big Belgian race, and no one's made Gilbert made an effort in the last climb, but in the last 10 kilometres everybody's waiting for their opportunity, and we're going to see a race for the win, which is, I think, is great.
Well, it's not going to be contested by 5-time champion Tom Bonen, who's picked up in the group of chasers. 3rd group on the road. And as you say, they've got about just under 30 seconds to close on that duo in between themselves and these 3 leaders at the front of affairs. Just over 4 miles left for Oliver Nassen. Philippe Gilbert now on the front, and Gilbert's eyeballing Nassen to see what sort of clues and signals he's getting. Greg Van Avermaet, something similar, trying to keep Nassen encouraged, and by the same token trying to accumulate as much information, so Nassen will be pulling faces.
That's all he can do, and I think he's recovered a little bit now. He's doing his turn at the front now, but the pace is not super high. It would be different if the group was within a minute behind, but they've got a minute and 26 to Durbridge and Posselberger, almost 2 minutes to the Boonen group, so they can afford to finesse a little bit.
When does the attack come? Who does it come from first? Maybe it'll come from Greg Van Avermaet first. Attack is the best form of defence, maybe. I wouldn't bet on it.
I think of all three riders, Van Avermaet would be the happiest to see it come to a sprint. The other two not, so it's up to them. If they want to try and win this race, they'll have to think of the opportunity, but Greg Van Avermaet is going to come through, do his turn. This man distanced in the last climb, but managed to come back. So three very strong riders at the front of E3 Harelbeke.
And what are the messages coming from the Quick Step team car, indeed any of the three team cars? Are they
can't do anything now, Declan.
Will they leave it up to their riders? Let them decide?
They have to. The tactics have been given last night. You can encourage them, but when you get into the last 10 kilometres, three riders, it's the feel. It's you have to be in that group of three to feel how the others are going, where there's an opportunity, and that's why we're seeing the cars just sit. They're not popping around. They're not popping out trying to look at the other riders. There's three experienced riders here, and
they have to trust them.
They have to trust them. Yeah, there'll be very little information coming. Maybe some time checks coming now from the team cars. That's it. Just time checks. Everything else will be down to the rider now.
Well, there'll be a level of satisfaction among the three teams, Quick Step Floors, AG Tour Le Mondial and BMC, that they've managed to get riders into the winning move. The question is, the nerves will be jangling too, won't they? Because nothing less than a victory will offer them satisfaction. All three riders at this point look as if they are, what are we going to say, guaranteed top three finishing positions. Well, I'd be inclined to commit to that one at this point, always assuming that they do ride it through to the finish. Nassen goes to the front through that left-hander. Will we see? Well, Van Avermaet puts himself in prime position to defend any attack. Sometimes on the way into a corner, any technical section can offer an opportunity. Rider might attack into a corner or just coming off it if there's a little bit of a gap. The wind, a bit of a headwind there, so that's not going to be easy for any prospective lone attack. 5k to go. Still Van Avermaet's going for the gels, going for the drinks. He won't be found wanting. Is there a sense that he might be just a little bit knocked or feeling it a little bit more than any of the others were looking for clues? You'll only really know when you see the finish line what the truth is. Well, Van Avermaet did a monstrous amount of work when he managed to get himself in position in that group of 12, which was composed of 6 riders that left the peloton and 6 riders that were mopped up from the early break. Those 6 strong men whittled down to 3 up front. And it's, well, balmy sunshine, isn't it? It's beautiful spring, late winter, whatever you call it, haze over Harelbeke. 26,000 people live in this part of Belgium, northwest Belgium. This race first run in 1958, originally called the Harelbeke to Antwerp and back. Then in about 1960 it became the E3. It's been a World Tour race since 2012. Fastest edition back in 2003, almost 46 kilometers an hour for Steven de Jong. I don't think we're going to see anything like that. Indeed, we haven't in recent years. First winner was a Belgian, Armand Desmen, and as I said, they've won 37 times over the years. But that last Belgian victory back in 2012, that's going to be changed this year. Most accomplished in this race among those riders is Greg Van Avermaet, sitting at the back of the group. He's a 3rd place finish from 2008. Van Avermaet would dearly like to convert that. Just over 3,000 meters remaining in E3 Harelbeke. Inside 2 minutes advantage for the riders. Well, it's a total of 2 minutes to Group 3 on the road. Would be interesting to know whether Posselberger and Durbridge have managed to fend off the Group 3, the bigger group. and indeed whether they're making any inroads on this group. One suspects that it's not significant, otherwise we would have got a time gap. And Oliver Nassen still showing willing. I think of the three, he'd be probably the most satisfied with a third place finish. It would certainly represent a step up for him. To have made it into the group contesting the win of a major one-day classic is a step up for him. It's been coming. I mean, it has been flagged. He's been very strong in recent times, but he's certainly the least accomplished of the three. So third place finish, if it comes to be, would be satisfying for him. So he might be the least minded to try and attack. Also, he may already be satisfied with what he's got and may try it, but I think it's the old story, isn't it? Both Gilbert and Nassen would like the other to do the attack first.
Yeah, I think they're waiting for it. Gilbert's waiting for it. Greg van Avermaet, I don't think he'll be attacking today, but I think all three riders, all three teams will be happy with a podium. Still don't know, just over 2 kilometres, 2,000 metres, and we'll find out, but they're starting to ride a little bit cagey now. I'm kind of surprised that Nassen has not really tried something yet.
It was interesting on Wednesday that Philippe Gilbert attacked first, and then Yves Lampert was the one to benefit. He went next and got what turned out to be the winning attack. May have been a sense of frustration for Gilbert. Doesn't want to attack first now. He wants to do the second run. Well, 1,700 metres left. If they're going to do it, it has to come soon. Who's going to draw the sting out of Greg van Avermaet? We're assuming that that's the way it's going to be played, that we're going to see at least something. But Greg van Avermaet, well, would he be minded to try a late attack? Surely he'll bet on his sprint. In Curn, Brussels Curn, well, up a hill, round a corner. Tough finish, but not found wanting. Managed to get ahead of Peter Sagan. Gilbert, now the finessing begins. 1,000 metres remaining.
This is an opportunity for Nassen now. Just let the Gilbert and van Avermaet start to play around.
Gilbert doesn't want to sit on the front. Looks like he's going to have to. Greg van Avermaet, if an attack comes, will feel the responsibility of covering it. There's no question, I think, of Philippe Gilbert covering an Oliver Nassen attack.
I think that's his best chance. If Nassen does go for a long one, with 1 kilometre to go now, that he leaves it for Greg van Avermaet, but it's looking highly possible now that these three riders are going to contest it in the sprint, which is a little bit of a surprise.
Unusual finish, isn't it, through a housing estate, but it's a welcome one if you happen to live in this housing estate. To see three of the best riders in world cycling coming past your house and heading towards the finish line. Less than 1,000 metres remaining. They're almost down to
opportunity for Nassen now. What's he doing? Have a go.
Well, Philippe Gilbert wants him to do it. Nassen's covering Gilbert. Somebody is going to step. Of course, they don't want to give up what they have, and 2 minutes is a massive advantage. So you don't think about Moreno Argentine ambushing Stephen Roach and Philip Anderson all the way back in the 1980s.
Nassen needs to go. He needs to have a crack now, but he's just moved over and went.
Well, we're in the finishing cameras, so we're into the finishing straight. And Philippe Gilbert, this one is going to be from a crawl. Who's going to kick it off? It's going to be a tense finale. It's going to be a slow start to the sprint. Who's that going to suit? The one with the biggest kick, the one that can open a couple of bike lengths advantage just with the instant recruitment of fast twitch muscle fibers. Who has got the most strength left after 206 kilometers of racing? Philippe Gilbert's like a trackman as Nassen goes. Nassen fires. That could be to the advantage of Gilbert, but has he got the strength to hold off Greg van Avermaet? Van Avermaet struggling to get into the wheel of Oliver Nassen. He's got a couple of bike lengths advantage. Well, it's a long way to go to the line to hold off a rider of the quality of Greg van Avermaet.
Van Avermaet.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Prettig gewonnen. Yes! Gilbert Wittens.
Kom even, go vlug.
Enough on the line. Oliver Nassen will be satisfied with third, but Greg van Avermaet had everything that was required to win that race. He had the strength to go with the top attacks, he had the strength to keep those riders away, and he had the speed and the strength to produce the winning sprint. They're surprised that we didn't have any attacks at the late show, but it was an incredibly close finale, and they gave up a large amount of their advantage. So Luke Durbridge is going to lead Lucas Posselberger to the line, but no doubt about the man that got the win, Greg van Avermaet.
Yeah, you could see the reaction. He was really happy with that one. Close in the end with Gilbert, but just as we're seeing the riders coming up, I think that's Michael Valgren just for Astana there. And we've mentioned already Barry and Merida had a rider in that chasing group there. But going back to the Colbrelli it was that finished there, but that meant a lot to him. I think Gilbert made one mistake. If I could criticise him, one, he was in probably too big a gear when he reacted to the sprint there. You could see that Nason is in a smaller gear. And
congratulations from Philippe Gilbert.
Nu de E3, het scheelde niet veel in die sprint. Gilbert kwam nog heel erg opzetten.
Ja, Philippe heeft ook een sterke sprint en zeker niet onderschatten. Dus moest echt wel goed timen. En Olly ging van ver aan en ik was hem even kwijt. Maar dan wist ik als ik hem in de slipstream kon pakken dat het nog moeilijk ging zijn om echt over mij te komen. En van een sprint zijn we niet zeker.
De wedstrijd vroeg opengebroken. Zo koers je graag natuurlijk.
Ja, het was plezant. Hè. Dat was echt geamuseerd. Ik denk dat zo gemakkelijk koersen is en mannen die willen rijden. Ik denk dat de sterkste drie op het podium staan. Dat ze alle drie wel verdienen om te winnen. Maar ik kan maar spijtig genoeg maar één winnen.
Er was wat oneenigheid op een bepaald moment toen er gedemareerd werd, nog vrij ver voor de streep.
Ja, iedereen speelt zijn eigen kansen natuurlijk en veel trok stevig door op Tiegenberg. En dan weet je dat het moeilijk is. En Olly was er dan even af. En dat is een moeilijke situatie ook voor mij, omdat we elke dag samen trainen. Maar in koers is het ieder voor zich. En het was al heel leuk om samen een keer op pad te zijn.
You know the saying about winning E3 Harelbeke with the Tour of Flanders in sight, then you're probably the main favorite.
Well, I don't know. I was every year really not so good here. Never really on the podium, and I was always good in Flanders. But like I said already, in Nieuwsblad, it's really nice to win a classic in Flanders. And for me, it's the first time E3. It's one of the nicest ones, I think, and so it gives a lot of confidence for Flanders, and I'm happy that I have two nice victories already in the pocket, and hopefully the third come next week.
One more question about your cold before the race. Apparently you weren't hampered by that cold. How about your respiration during the race?
Yeah, I was really happy about how I felt. I was directly from the beginning really good. Wednesday I didn't feel so good, but I'm really happy it's not so bad.
Apparently. Many congratulations. Hartelijk proficiat.
Thank you.
There's flat chat to try and show that. Now, what does Philippe Gilbert have to say about his day's efforts?
Het zijn mooie koersen en ik ben blij dat de conditie goed is, maar eindelijk heb ik graag vandaag gewonnen, maar ja, dat is zo. Tweede is ook niet slecht en we hebben een sterke koers gereden met onze drie voorop en ik denk dat het was weer mooi om te zien, ja.
Hoeveel kwam je tekort? Want je kwam nog heel erg dicht bij Greg van Avermaet.
Ja, ik was even verrast. En ik was direct een paar lengten achter. Ik heb een sterke sprint gedaan, maar natuurlijk, de meet was daar. En je kunt zeggen wat je wil. Je moet gewoon eerst voor de meet zijn. Ja.
Je hebt weer de verdienste dat je mee de wedstrijd hebt opengebroken. Ga je op die manier ook koersen in de Ronde van Vlaanderen?
Ja, dat is gewoon mijn manier van koersen. Als ik wacht ben ik altijd... niet slecht, maar ook niet goed. Ik moet altijd agressief zijn.
Op een bepaald moment hadden jullie ruzie, hè? Bij manier van spreken. Jullie waren het oneens over hoe er gereden moest worden in het kopgroepje.
Wat bedoel je?
Ja, er werd getwijfeld, er werd wat gediscussieerd.
Ja, maar dat was ook... Ja, dat was ook in Waregem zo. Geen informatie bij de organisatie. Geen van de twee. Dus eindelijk weten we niks van de situatie. We moeten altijd rekenen op de auto's, maar soms zijn de auto's ver achter ons. En we begrijpen niet altijd. Dus zonder informatie is het altijd moeilijk. Dus soms hoor je van de verzorgers langs de banen 1 minuut, maar ja, wat bedoel 1 minuut is dat op de achtervolging, op de groep achter ons, hoeveel mannen, je weet niks. Dus ja, wij waren aan het spreken samen om te kijken naar die informatie waar dezelfde bij iedereen. En zo proberen ja, onze inspanning te doseren.
Hartelijk dank en proficiat met die mooie tweede plaats, Philippe Gilbert.
Ja, het was het enige wat ik kon doen. Ik was zeker, de twee waren zeker beter.
He was bittersweet moment for him. About Oliver Nassen, I'm sure he's happy.
Het beste wedijveren, maar op zo'n bergje, als ze echt ontploffen, Gilbert en gerecht, dan moest het telkens passen. Maar dan in de sprint, ja, het is het enige wat ik kon doen, van iets te ver aangaan. Direct met de knal een gatje maken, maar het is zoals op training. Het is nog nooit niet gelukt om gerecht voor te zijn en die losing streak, die gaat gewoon verder.
Heb je dan op een bepaald moment geen demarrage overwogen in volle finale?
Ja, met zo'n coureurs die kijken niet naar elkaar. Dus, dat is niet... Ja, je hebt zo'n paar niveaus van coureurs en die twee dat zijn er die op elk wiel springen. En, ja, zelfs al demareren ik, ja, kan gewoon niet rapper rijden dan hen. Dus dat was voor mij geen optie.
Dus je durfde er eigenlijk niet op speculeren dat ze elkaar niet zouden gunnen, Gilbert en Van Aert?
Ik dacht gewoon dat ik het niet ging kunnen houden. dat was eigenlijk eerder het probleem. Maar ik had ook wel redelijk wat vertrouwen in de sprint. Het gaat, mijn sprints zijn tegenwoordig beter en beter. Ja, nu ook. Het was 20 meter te lang. Dat is niet... Oh ja, ik ben niet belachelijk gespurt ook, dus ik vond het een mooie poging.
Dit is de koers van de bevestiging voor jou. Er werd veel goeds van jou verwacht. Je hebt het helemaal waargemaakt. Met welke ambitie trek je nu naar de Ronde van Vlaanderen?
Mijn positie in mijn ploeg. Ik ben sowieso de kopman samen met Stijn van den Berg. En de andere ploegen, die kijken niet naar ons, dat weet ik zeker. Misschien verandert dat een klein beetje, omdat ik nu nog niet buiten de top 10 geweest ben in de klassiekers. Maar ja, ik wil gewoon terug top 5, top 10 rijden. Ik heb het gevoel dat dat mijn plaats is. Derde, dat is nu wel een beetje boven de verwachtingen, maar ja, als je bij de 10 beste bent aan de start, dan kan er veel. Dat is geen wat ik altijd zeg en dat is ook gewoon zo. Dus dat is wel een heel aangenaam koersen zo.
En ook heel aangenaam om te bekijken. Dikke koers, van harte proficiat.
Hartelijk bedankt, het was heel plezant.